The plate shattered against the gunman's skull with a crack that echoed through the downtown streets. In 30 seconds, ex-Special Forces soldier Daniel Cross transformed from invisible busboy to lethal weapon, taking down 3 armed kidnappers with nothing but restaurant silverware. Billionaire CEO Olivia Hartman watched in stunned silence as her savior melted back into the shadows, leaving her with one burning question. Who was this ghost warrior hiding in plain sight? Stay with me to discover how a single dad's hidden past collided with a global conspiracy that would change 3 lives forever. And hey, drop a comment about which city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The September rain hammered Los Angeles like artillery fire, turning the streets outside Le Bernardin West into rivers of reflected neon. Inside the upscale restaurant, Daniel Cross moved between tables, with practiced invisibility, clearing plates and refilling water glasses, while the city's elite discussed million-dollar deals over $100 steaks. His calloused hands, steady as surgical instruments, betrayed nothing of their history hands that had once assembled rifles in Afghan darkness, that had pulled wounded brothers from burning Humvees, that now simply stacked dirty dishes with methodical precision. Table 12 needs clearing, Marcus the head waiter barked without looking up from his reservation tablet. Daniel nodded, already moving. 3 years of this routine had taught him the rhythm of service work: be efficient, be invisible, be forgettable. It was exactly what he needed. Through the rain-streaked windows, he caught a glimpse of his own reflection, 35 years old, but looking older. Brown hair grown out from its military-cut gray eyes that had seen too much carefully dulled to appear vacant. The kind of face people looked through, not at. Perfect for a man who wanted to disappear. His phone vibrated against his thigh. A text from Mrs. Chen. His neighbor, Lila, finished homework, made mac and cheese. She's asking about you again. Daniel's jaw tightened. His 8-year-old daughter was too smart for her own good, already picking up on the weight he carried. He typed back quickly. Home by 11. Tell her I love her. She knows, came the reply. But she needs to hear it from you. He slipped the phone away, guilt gnawing at his chest. Every night he worked was a night stolen from Lila, but the restaurant's evening shifts paid double what day work offered, and God knew they needed every penny. The medical bills from Sarah's cancer had drained their savings, and even 3 years after her death, the debt collectors still called. Cross, Marcus snapped. The VIP section. Now! Daniel grabbed his bus tray and headed toward the restaurant's private dining area, separated from the main floor by frosted glass panels. Through the translucent barrier, he could make out a small group finishing their meal. 3 men in dark suits and a woman whose posture alone commanded the room. As he pushed through the divider, Daniel's trained eye automatically cataloged the scene. The men private security trying too hard to look casual. Earpieces, poorly concealed jackets hanging wrong from concealed carries. Amateurs playing professional. The woman Olivia Hartman, though the tabloids didn't do her justice. Mid-30s auburn hair pulled back in a style that cost more than Daniel made in a week. Green eyes that missed nothing. CEO of Hartman Industries, one of the country's fastest-growing clean energy companies. She was arguing with someone on her phone, her voice controlled but tight. I don't care what the board thinks, Richard. The battery technology stays proprietary. No foreign partnerships, no licensing deals. We're talking about national security here. Daniel kept his head down, clearing plates with mechanical efficiency. Just another invisible servant in her world of billions and board meetings. Her security detail barely glanced at him, a critical mistake he noted but didn't dwell on. Not his problem anymore. The prototype testing is scheduled for next week? Olivia continued, standing to pace near the window. If the numbers hold, we're looking at a complete transformation of energy storage. Electric vehicles with 1,000-mile ranges. Grid-level storage that actually works. This changes everything. One of her security men, the tallest with a Boston accent thick as chowder, checked his watch. Ma'am, we should go. The weather's getting worse. Olivia waved him off, still focused on her call. Richard, I'm hanging up. We'll discuss this at tomorrow's board meeting. And if anyone else suggests partnering with Jiang Industries, remind them what happened to Solyndra. She ended the call with a sharp tap, then turned to her security. Give me 5 minutes. I need some air. Ma'am, the weather. 5 minutes. Thompson. I'm going to stand under the awning and remember what it feels like to not be in a boardroom. Her tone brooked no argument. Daniel watched them file out through the restaurant's side entrance, the one that opened onto the narrow alley between buildings. His instincts prickled something his old squad leader used to call his spider sense. 3 men, 1 principal, heading into a confined space with limited visibility. Every tactical bone in his body screamed wrong, but he forced himself to keep working. Not his problem, not his world. He had Lila to think about. The crash came 2 minutes later. It was the sound of metal on brick, followed by a woman's sharp cry. Daniel's body moved before his mind could stop at muscle memory, overriding 3 years of careful civilian conditioning. He was through the side door while other diners were still looking up from their meals. The scene in the alley unfolded in his mind like a tactical map. 3 hostiles in ski masks, not her security. Thompson and the others were down, blood pooling beneath their still forms. Alive or dead. No time to check. Olivia pressed against the brick wall, rain plastering her designer dress to her trembling frame. The lead attacker held a Glock 19 stance, professional finger indexed along the trigger guard. The other 2 flanked him, creating overlapping fields of fire. "Please." Olivia's voice remained steady despite her fear. "Whatever you want." "Shut up," the lead gunman said. Eastern European accent, maybe Serbian. "You come with us. No noise, no problems." Daniel's hand found the stack of plates he'd been carrying, his mind calculating angles and distances. 20 feet. 3 targets. Element of surprise. In Afghanistan, he'd have had an M4 and squad support. Here, he had dinner plates and the knowledge that his daughter was waiting for him at home. Lila's face flashed in his mind. Growing up without a mother was hard enough. Growing up without both parents. The gunman grabbed Olivia's arm, yanking her forward. She stumbled, crying out as her heels snapped. That small sound of distress made Daniel's decision for him. The first plate flew like a ceramic frisbee, catching the lead gunman in the throat. He dropped, hands clutching his crushed windpipe. Daniel was already moving, using the momentum to close distance. The second attacker swung his weapon around, but Daniel had reached him, deflecting the gun arm up with his left hand while driving a dinner fork into the man's wrist tendons with his right. The gun clattered away. The third man fired too high. Panic shot the bullet, sparking off the brick inches from Olivia's head. Daniel rolled forward, came up with a handful of gravel from the alley floor and flung it into the shooter's face. As the man flinched, Daniel swept his legs, bringing him down hard onto the wet pavement. A precise strike to the carotid sinus, and the attacker went limp. Total elapsed time, 8 seconds. Daniel turned back to the second attacker, who was trying to retrieve his dropped weapon with his good hand. A measured kick sent the gun skittering into the darkness, followed by a knee strike that put the man into the wall. He slumped down unconscious. The lead gunman was still moving, trying to crawl despite his damaged throat. Daniel knelt beside him, applying pressure to specific points that would keep him conscious but immobile. He needed answers. "Who sent you?" Daniel's voice had dropped an octave, accessing a register he hadn't used in 3 years. The man's eyes widened in recognition of what he was facing, not a busboy, but something far more dangerous. He tried to speak, but only managed a wet gurgle. Sirens wailed in the distance. Daniel looked up at Olivia, who stood frozen against the wall, rain and shock mingling on her face. Their eyes met for a single electric moment. In hers, he saw questions forming wheels turning behind the shock. In his, she saw something that made her take an involuntary step back, a glimpse of the predator that lived beneath the service uniform. "Your security needs medical attention," Daniel said, his voice returning to its normal register. He checked Thompson's pulse, steady but weak. "Tell the police you didn't see who helped. The rain, the confusion. You don't remember." "Wait." Olivia started forward, but Daniel was already moving. He disappeared into the maze of downtown alleys, leaving behind 3 unconscious attackers, 3 wounded security guards, and 1 very confused billionaire. By the time the police arrived, he was blocks away, just another pedestrian hunched against the rain. His phone buzzed. "Mrs. Chen again. Lila's asking if you can read to her when you get home." Daniel's hand shook as he typed, "Tell her yes, always yes." But even as he headed home, he knew this wasn't over. The attackers had been professional despite their failure. Someone had wanted Olivia Hartman badly enough to attempt a kidnapping in downtown LA. And worse, He'd shown his capabilities. 3 years of careful anonymity shattered in 8 seconds of violence. He thought about Olivia's eyes in that moment of recognition, the way they'd sharpened despite her shock. She was the type who'd want answers, the type who'd look for him. Daniel quickened his pace, mind already running through contingencies. They'd have to move again. New city, new identities, new school for Lila. The thought of uprooting her again made his chest tight, but staying might be worse. If whoever targeted Olivia traced the intervention back to him, the apartment building loomed before him, a tired brick structure that had seen better decades. Mrs. Chen met him at her door, concern creasing her weathered face. "You're soaked," she said, then lowered her voice. "And you have that look, the one from when you first moved in." "Everything's fine," Daniel lied smoothly. "Just a long shift." She studied him with eyes that had seen revolution in Taiwan, that had raised 4 children alone after her husband died. "Lila's on my couch." She insisted on waiting up. Daniel found his daughter curled under one of Mrs. Chen's hand-knitted blankets, a book clutched to her chest, her dark hair. Sarah's hair spilled across the cushions. Even in sleep, she looked worried, her small face pinched with concerns no 8-year-old should carry. "Hey, Princess Vietnam," he whispered, gathering her into his arms. She stirred, blinking up at him with eyes that were purely his gray and too perceptive. "Daddy, you smell like rain." "Got caught in it. Come on, let's get you to bed." "Will you read to me?" "Always." He carried her across the hall to their apartment, 2 bedrooms that felt smaller every month. Lila's room was a careful chaos of books, drawings, and the few toys they could afford. He tucked her in, then reached for their current book, something about a girl who discovered she could talk to dragons. "Daddy," Lila's voice was small. "Are we going to have to move again?" The question hit like a physical blow. "What makes you ask that? You have your worried face, the same one from before we left Houston and Phoenix." Daniel forced a smile. "No moves planned, Princess. I promise." "Good. I like my teacher. And Emma's my friend. She says I can come to her birthday party next month." Each word twisted the knife deeper. A birthday party. Such a normal thing, yet it might as well be on Mars for all the stability he could offer her. He read until her breathing deepened into sleep, then sat watching her in the dim light from the hallway. Sarah would have known what to do. Sarah always knew. But Sarah was gone, leaving him to navigate parenthood like a minefield, never knowing which step might cause everything to explode. His phone vibrated. Unknown number. "Mr. Cross, or should I say Sergeant First Class Cross, we need to talk about tonight. OH. Daniel's blood chilled. She'd found him already. His name, his rank. How much else did she know? He deleted the message, then went to his bedroom closet. Behind a false panel he'd installed himself was a go-bag cache fake IDs. Ammunition for weapons he no longer officially owned. He'd hoped to never need it again. Another buzz. "I'm not looking for trouble. Just answers. And I think you need to know they weren't after me. They were after what I know, what I've developed. This is bigger than either of us." Daniel stared at the message. Every instinct screamed to run. Pack Lila up, disappear into the night, become new people by morning. It's what had kept them safe for 3 years. But he thought about those attackers. Professional. Coordinated. Eastern European accents in LA targeting a clean energy CEO. His mind assembled patterns, connections. This wasn't a simple kidnapping for ransom. "They had surveillance photos of your daughter. They know who you are." The blood drained from Daniel's face. His thumb hovered over the phone screen, rage and fear warring in his chest. If this was a manipulation, but no. He'd seen Olivia's face in that alley. She wasn't the type for games, and if they really did have photos of Lila. He typed, "Tomorrow, noon, public place. You come alone or this ends badly." Griffith Observatory. "I'll be at the Einstein statue." Daniel set the phone down and returned to Lila's doorway. She slept peacefully, unaware that their carefully constructed world was already crumbling. He'd failed. Sarah couldn't protect her from the cancer that ate her alive. He wouldn't fail their daughter. But as he stood there, he couldn't shake the feeling that by intervening tonight, he'd set something in motion that couldn't be stopped. The ghost he'd tried to bury was clawing its way back to the surface, and this time there might be no running from it. The next morning came too quickly. Daniel made Lila breakfast scrambled eggs and toast, her favorite, while his mind ran through tactical scenarios. Mrs. Chen agreed to watch her after school, accepting his excuse about extra shifts without question, though her eyes said she knew better. "Be careful, Mr. Cross," she said as he left. "Whatever this is, be careful." The drive to Griffith Observatory took 40 minutes in LA traffic. Daniel parked a quarter-mile away, approaching on foot to scout the area. Old habits died hard, and some habits kept you alive. He spotted Olivia's security's first two teams trying to blend with the tourists, but failing miserably. She hadn't come alone, but then he hadn't expected her to. What surprised him was that she stood openly by the Einstein statue, clearly visible, making herself a target. Either she was foolish, or she trusted her security more than she should. Daniel circled wide, using tourist groups for concealment, until he could approach from her blind spot. He was 3 feet away before she noticed him, and only because he cleared his throat. She spun hand going to her chest. "Jesus, how did you—" She looked around at her security, none of whom had noticed his approach. Never mind. Up close in daylight, she was more striking than he'd realized. Not beautiful in the classical sense, but compelling, with an intensity that commanded attention. Her suit probably cost more than he made in a month, but she wore it like armor. "You found me quickly," Daniel said, keeping his voice neutral. "I have resources." She studied him openly. "You look different out of uniform, less invisible. That's the point of a uniform." "Is it, or is looking invisible the point?" She reached into her purse and Daniel tensed, but she only pulled out a tablet. Daniel Cross, Army Rangers 2005 to 2018. 4 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq. Silver Star, Bronze Star with Valor, 3 Purple Hearts. Medically discharged after an IED incident that killed half your squad. Wife died of cancer 2 years later. You've been moving ever since, never staying in one place more than 8 months. Until LA. Daniel's jaw tightened. You had no right. They had all of this too. She turned the tablet toward him. On the screen were surveillance photos, him at work, at Lila's school, at the grocery store. And worse photos of Lila alone, walking home, playing in the park, reading in the library. These were on one of the attackers' phones. The police don't know I have a friend in the department who let me look before they logged evidence. The world narrowed to those images of his daughter. Someone had been watching her, cataloging her routines, her vulnerabilities. Daniel's hands curled into fists, the careful control he'd maintained for 3 years cracking. "Who?" The word came out as a growl. "That's what I'm trying to find out." Olivia lowered the tablet. "But I think it's connected to my work. 3 months ago, we had a breakthrough, a new battery technology that could revolutionize energy storage. We're talking about ending dependence on fossil fuels within a decade. The implications are worth killing for," Daniel finished. "Worth starting wars over." She nodded. "The attack last night wasn't random. They knew where I'd be when my security would be most vulnerable. Someone inside my company is feeding them information. Not my problem." "It is now." She gestured to the photos of Lila. "They know who you are, what you're capable of. You interfered with their plans. Do you really think they'll just let that go?" Daniel wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. In Afghanistan, he'd learned that once you were on someone's radar, the only way off was through victory or death. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "Help. Protection. Someone I can trust who isn't connected to my company, my board, or any government agency that might have its own agenda." "You don't know me." "I know you risked your life to save a stranger. I know you're raising a daughter alone while working a job that's beneath your capabilities. And I know you're the kind of man who can take down 3 armed professionals with dinner plates." She paused. "That's more than I know about anyone else in my life right now. I'm not for hire. I'm not trying to hire you. I'm trying to survive long enough to get this technology to market. And based on those photos, so are you." She pulled out a business card, expensive cardstock with minimal text. "My direct line. When you're ready to admit we're in this together, call me." She started to leave, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You saved my life, and the reward is getting dragged into my nightmare. That's not fair." "Fair." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Fair died with my wife." All that's left is protecting what matters. Their eyes met and something passed between them. Understanding maybe, or recognition of kindred damage. Then she was walking away, her security falling into formation around her, still oblivious to the fact that the most dangerous person on the observation deck was the one they'd never noticed. Daniel stood there long after she'd gone, her card burning in his pocket. Every instinct said to run to grab Lila and disappear into the vast anonymous sprawl of America. But the images on that tablet haunted him. They knew about Lila. Running wouldn't change that. His phone rang. Mrs. Chen. Mr. Cross, Lila's school called. There was a man asking questions about her. Security stopped him, but Daniel was already running for his car. Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone but me. The drive back took an eternity and an instant. He took corners on two wheels, weaving through traffic with skills he'd learned pursuing insurgents through cobble streets. By the time he reached the apartment, 3 LAPD units were already there. He found Lila in Mrs. Chen's apartment, surrounded by police officers who looked barely old enough to shave. She ran to him the moment he appeared, burying her face in his chest. There was a man, Daddy. He had a camera. It's okay, Princess. You're safe. Over her head, he looked at the lead officer. Description: white male, mid-40s, European accent. Said he was a photographer doing a story about urban schools. Had fake credentials, but good ones. School security got suspicious when he kept asking about specific students. Just mine. The officer hesitated. No, 3 others. All children of single parents with military backgrounds. Daniel's mind raced. They weren't just watching him, they were building a profile identifying similar targets. But why leverage recruitment? We'll post a unit outside tonight, the officer said. But honestly, if someone wants to, they won't. Daniel's tone left no room for doubt. The officer nodded, recognizing something in Daniel's eyes that made further discussion unnecessary. That night after Lila was asleep, Daniel sat in the dark living room with a glass of whiskey. He didn't drink, and Olivia's card in his hand. Through the thin walls, he could hear Mrs. T's, Chen's television, the laugh track of some sitcom, providing surreal counterpoint to his thoughts. He thought about Sarah, how she'd made him promise to keep Lila safe, to give her a normal life. But normal was a luxury they couldn't afford anymore. Maybe had never been able to afford. At midnight, he made the call. I was wondering when you'd call, Olivia answered on the second ring. She sounded exhausted. Ground rules, Daniel said without preamble. I don't work for you. We work together. My daughter's safety is non-negotiable. If it comes down to your technology or her life, I choose her every time. Understood. I want everything, every file, every employee record, every piece of correspondence related to your project. If someone in your company is dirty, I'll find them. I'll have it ready by morning. And I want resources, safe houses, clean vehicles, untraceable funds. If we're doing this, we do it right. Done. There was a pause. Then Olivia said, Can I ask you something? Why did you really intervene last night? You could have walked away. Daniel thought about lying, but found himself speaking truth. Because I've walked away before. From fights that mattered, from people who needed help. My wife used to say I was trying to save the world to make up for the ones I couldn't save. Maybe she was right. And now I just want to save my daughter. Everything else is secondary. That's not true, though, is it? If it was, you wouldn't have helped me. Daniel didn't answer, but she was right. Somewhere beneath the scar tissue and carefully constructed walls, the soldier who'd once believed in causes greater than himself was still alive, still fighting. There's something else, Olivia said. The man who approached your daughter's school, we think he's connected to Jiang Industries. They're a Chinese conglomerate with interests in energy and defense. They've been trying to acquire my company for 2 years. And when you said no, things started happening. Industrial accidents, key employees having family emergencies. Nothing traceable, but the pattern was clear. So they escalated to kidnapping. Or worse, the FBI thinks... She paused. Can this line be traced? Not to me. You. Theoretical quantum encryption. My own design. Despite everything, Daniel almost smiled. Of course it is. The FBI thinks Jiang has connections to Chinese intelligence. They want my battery technology for military applications. Imagine tanks and aircraft with unlimited operational range, submarines that never need to surface. The strategic implications would shift the global balance of power, Daniel finished, and you're the only one who has it. For now, but every day we delay getting it to market is another day they have to steal it, or steal me. Daniel heard something in her voice, not fear, but a bone-deep exhaustion that he recognized. The weight of carrying something too important to put down. Get some sleep, he said. Tomorrow we start hunting. Daniel, her voice was softer now. Thank you for saving me, for helping me, for... Don't thank me yet. This is going to get worse before it gets better. He hung up and went to check on Lila one more time. She slept peacefully, clutching the stuffed rabbit Sarah had given her before the cancer got too bad. In sleep, she looked so young, so fragile. But Daniel knew better. She had Sarah's strength, that quiet resilience that had carried them through 18 months of chemo and radiation. She'd need it for what was coming. Because as Daniel stood there in the darkness, he could feel it, the old familiar sensation of being in someone's crosshairs. They were being hunted, and the hunter was getting closer. Tomorrow, he'd start hunting back. But tonight he stood watch over his daughter and made the same promise he'd made to Sarah in those final moments. Whatever it takes. Whatever it costs. He would keep their little girl safe, even if it meant becoming the weapon he'd tried so hard to bury. The morning brought no peace. Daniel woke to find an encrypted drive had been delivered to Mrs. Chen's door. Olivia's files as promised. But there was something else, a photograph of him from his army days standing with his squad in Kandahar. Red X's marked through the faces of the dead. Only 3 faces remained unmarked, his and 2 others. On the back, someone had written, "You can't protect everyone, Sergeant Cross." Daniel's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about Olivia's technology anymore. Someone was making it personal. Someone who knew his history, his failures, his guilt. He looked at the faces of his dead brothers, remembered their last mission. The IED that should have killed him too would have if Martinez hadn't pushed him clear at the last second. The survivor's guilt that had nearly destroyed him until Sarah pulled him back from the edge. Now Sarah was gone too, and someone was using his past as a weapon. His phone buzzed. Olivia. We need to meet. Now. They killed someone. Daniel looked at the photograph one more time, then burned it in the kitchen sink. The past was dead, but its ghosts apparently were not, and they were coming for everyone he had left. The body belonged to Dr. Marcus Webb Hartman Industries, head of research and development. Daniel stood in the morgue's sterile coldness, studying what was left of the man who'd helped create Olivia's revolutionary battery technology. The official cause of death was a car accident brake failure on a winding mountain road, but Daniel recognized professional work when he saw it. The brake lines were cut with precision. Detective Ray Morrison said, an old contact from Daniel's first months in LA who'd helped him establish his new identity. Whoever did this wanted it to look accidental at first glance, but left just enough evidence for someone who knew what to look for. Olivia stood beside them, her face pale, but composed. She'd identified the body an hour ago, maintaining her CEO's mask even as her hands trembled. Marcus was supposed to present the final test results to the board tomorrow. He was the only one besides me who understood the complete scope of the technology. Who else knew about the presentation? Daniel asked. The entire board, my senior staff. It wasn't a secret, we've been building toward this for months. She paused, something flickering across her face. Marcus called me last night. Said he'd discovered something in the lab's security footage but wanted to verify before bringing it to me. Now we'll never know what he found. Daniel exchanged glances with Morrison. The security footage? Wiped. Morrison confirmed. Professional job. Whoever did this had inside access to your systems, Ms. Hartman. They left the morgue in separate cars, but Daniel followed Olivia to her office in downtown LA, a gleaming tower that seemed to pierce the smoggy sky. Her security was visible now, 8 men who watched Daniel with barely concealed suspicion. He'd been added to their threat assessment after appearing from nowhere at Griffith Observatory. They don't trust you, Olivia said as they rode the executive elevator. Good. They shouldn't trust anyone right now. Daniel studied the elevator's control panel, noting the hidden cameras, the emergency protocols. How many people have access to this floor? 12 board members and senior staff only, and maintenance, cleaning crews, IT support. She fell silent, understanding dawning. God, we're vulnerable everywhere, aren't we? Everyone is. The trick is making the vulnerabilities work for you. The elevator opened onto a floor that reeked of money and power. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city that probably cost millions just to maintain. Olivia's office occupied the corner, a massive space that felt more like a fortress than a workspace. She went to a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a safe that looked like it could survive a nuclear blast. Inside were drives, documents, and something that made Daniel's breath catch, a prototype battery no bigger than a smartphone. "This is it," she said, holding it up. 3 years of development. It can power a house for a month, a car for 5,000 miles, or a weapon system for She trailed off. "For long enough to change warfare forever," Daniel finished. "Marcus was the only other person who knew the complete formula. I compartmentalized everything else, different teams working on different components, no one seeing the full picture." She returned the prototype to the safe. Someone killed him for what he knew. Daniel's phone buzzed. "Mrs. Chen. Lila's home from school. Man in blue sedan has driven by 3 times. His body went rigid. Olivia noticed immediately. "What is it?" "They're watching my daughter." He was already moving toward the door. "I have to go." "Wait." She grabbed his arm and he nearly reacted on instinct before catching himself. "Bring her here. The building has a residential floor, corporate apartments for visiting executives. Full security controlled access. It's safer than a rundown apartment with one exit and windows that don't lock." Daniel's pride warred with pragmatism. Pragmatism won. "Fine. But we do this my way." 20 minutes later, he was back at his apartment, Lila already packed thanks to Mrs. Chen's foresight. His daughter sat on her bed, clutching her rabbit eyes too, knowing for her 8 years. "Are we running again, Daddy?" "Not running, Princess, just relocating temporarily." "Because of the man with the camera." Daniel knelt before her, taking her small hands in his scarred ones. "Because Daddy's helping someone with something important, and until it's done, we need to stay somewhere safer." "Are you being a soldier again?" The question cut deep. He'd never told her details about his service, but children had a way of knowing things. "Something like that." "Mom said you were a hero, that you saved people." "Your mom said a lot of things. She said you'd know when it was time to be a hero again." Lila's gray eyes, so like his own, studied him intently. "Is it time?" Daniel pulled her into a hug, unable to answer. Sarah had always seen him more clearly than he saw himself. Even dying, she'd known he couldn't stay hidden forever. The blue sedan was still there when they left, but Daniel had expected that. He took Lila out the back, while Mrs. Chen created a distraction at the front, loudly arguing with the delivery driver about a non-existent package. The sedan's occupant was so focused on the building's entrance that he missed them entirely. Daniel took a circuitous route to Olivia's building, doubling back twice, switching vehicles at a parking garage where he'd stashed a clean car weeks ago, old habits dying hard. Lila stayed quiet throughout, reading her book, as if this was all perfectly normal. The corporate apartment was on the 40th floor, a 2-bedroom space that was larger than anywhere they'd lived since Sarah died. Lila's eyes went wide at the view, the city spreading below them like a circuit board. "It's so high," she whispered. "Is that okay?" She nodded, then looked at him with that uncanny perception. "The lady you're helping, is she nice?" Before Daniel could answer, Olivia appeared in the doorway. She'd changed from her CEO armor into jeans and a sweater, looking younger, more vulnerable. "You must be Lila," she said, crouching to the girl's level. "I'm Olivia. Your dad is helping me with something very important." Lila studied her with those serious gray eyes. "Are you why those men were watching us?" Olivia glanced at Daniel, who nodded slightly. No point in lying to a child who already knew too much. "Yes," Olivia said simply, "and I'm very sorry about that, but your dad is going to make sure you're both safe." "He's good at that," Lila said matter-of-factly. "He has nightmares about the people he couldn't save, but he always saves me." The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel felt exposed as if his daughter had peeled back his skin to show the scars beneath. Olivia's eyes met his, and he saw understanding there. She had her own scars, just better hidden. "Why don't you pick which bedroom you want?" Daniel suggested, desperate to change the subject. As Lila explored the apartment, Olivia moved closer to him. "Nightmares." "Leave it." "My brother was a Marine," she said quietly. "Came back from Fallujah, different. He said the hardest part wasn't what he'd done, but what he couldn't do, the people he couldn't save." "What happened to him?" "Suicide. 3 years after he came home." She stared out at the city. "That's why I recognized the look. You have the same eyes he did, always watching for threats, always ready for violence, but underneath is the guilt of surviving when others didn't." Daniel wanted to deny it, but what was the point? She'd seen through him as easily as Lila had. "Daddy," Lila called from one of the bedrooms. "There's a TV in here. Can I watch cartoons?" 30 minutes, then homework," he called back, grateful for the interruption. Olivia pulled out a tablet, all business again. "I've been reviewing Marcus's recent activities. 3 days ago, he accessed files he shouldn't have been able to personnel records from before my time as CEO when my father ran the company." "Your father?" "Nathaniel Hartman. He founded the company 40 years ago, built it from nothing into a Fortune 500 corporation. Died of a heart attack 5 years ago, left me everything." She pulled up a photograph, a stern-looking man with Olivia's green eyes, but none of her warmth. He was brilliant, ruthless, and paranoid. Kept secrets even from me. What kind of secrets? That's what Marcus was trying to find out. The files he accessed were sealed after my father's death, required board approval to open, but somehow he got in. Daniel studied the file names on her screen. Most were standard corporate documents, but one stood out, Project Lightning Rod. "What's that?" "I don't know. It's not in any official company records, but Marcus downloaded it 3 days before he died." She touched the screen, and an error message appeared, "File corrupted." "Conveniently corrupted after he accessed it," Daniel muttered. "Someone's cleaning house, first the file, then Marcus next." "Me." Olivia's voice was steady, but he saw her hands tremble slightly. "I'm the last person who knows how the technology works." "Then we need to get you somewhere safe while I figure out who's behind this." "No." Her CEO voice was back steel wrapped in silk. "I have a company to run, a presentation to make. If I disappear now, the board will panic, stock will crash, and whoever's doing this wins. Pride won't stop a bullet. It's not pride. It's duty. Thousands of people depend on Hartman Industries for their livelihoods. I won't abandon them because I'm scared." Daniel recognized the tone, the same one he'd used when refusing to leave wounded soldiers behind, even when staying meant almost certain death. Duty was a chain that could drag you to hell, but it was also what separated humans from animals. "Fine, but we do this smart. I need a complete list of everyone with access to those files, everyone who knew about Marcus's research, everyone who stands to gain from your technology or your death." "That's a long list. Then we'd better get started." They worked through the night, Olivia pulling records while Daniel analyzed patterns. Lila fell asleep on the couch, her book still clutched to her chest. Around midnight, Olivia made coffee, expensive stuff that tasted like liquid gold compared to the swill Daniel usually drank. "Can I ask you something?" she said, handing him a mug. "Why did you really leave the military? Your record is exemplary until that last mission, then nothing. Just a medical discharge and silence." Daniel stared into his coffee, seeing faces in the dark liquid. "You read the report?" "I read the official report. Half your squad killed by an IED, you wounded, received medical treatment and discharge. But that's not the whole story, is it?" "It never is. The men who died, you blame yourself." "Because it was my fault." The words came out harsh, raw. "I was squad leader. My job to keep them safe. I missed the signs, didn't trust my instincts. Martinez saw something I didn't, try to warn me, but I was so focused on the mission." He trailed off, lost in memory. "So Martinez saved you. Pushed me clear just as the device detonated. Took the full blast himself, him and 4 others gone in an instant. And me few pieces of shrapnel, concussion, survivor's guilt, that no amount of therapy could touch. It wasn't your fault. Yes, it was. That's what leadership means. Everything is your fault. Every decision, every consequence, every life lost under your command. He met her eyes. That's why I walked away. Because I couldn't trust myself to keep anyone safe anymore. But you kept your daughter safe. And you saved me. Lila is different. He paused, searching for words. She's the only good thing I've done since Sarah died. The only thing that matters. Olivia was quiet for a moment, then said, My father used to say that the only things worth doing are the ones that terrify you, that fear means it matters. Your father sounds like he was complicated. He was a bastard, she said bluntly. Brilliant, driven, successful, but a bastard. He built this company through sheer force of will, crushed anyone who stood in his way. I spent my whole life trying to prove I was worthy of his legacy, and he died before I could. Is that why you're pushing so hard with this technology? Maybe. Or maybe I just want to prove that power doesn't have to corrupt, that you can change the world without destroying everyone around you. She laughed bitterly. Look how well that's working out. Daniel's phone buzzed. Unknown number, but he recognized the pattern, a burner phone probably purchased within the last hour. Cross, he answered. You should have stayed invisible, Sergeant. The voice was electronically distorted, but carried a trace of accent Eastern European, like the attackers from the alley. You've inserted yourself into something you don't understand. Enlighten me. The technology Ms. Hartman has developed belongs to the world, not to one country or corporation. There are forces at work here beyond your comprehension. Let me guess, Zhang Industries' Chinese intelligence, or are you freelance? A pause. You're not as clever as you think. Webb discovered the truth, and it killed him. The same truth that killed Nathaniel Hartman 5 years ago. Daniel's eyes snapped to Olivia. What truth, what? Project Lightning Rod. Ask her about it. Ask her what her father was really building before he died. Ask her why the Department of Defense classified his research and buried it so deep even his daughter couldn't find it. The line went dead. Olivia had gone pale, her hand pressed to her mouth. Project Lightning Rod was real. You didn't know. I knew my father was working on something before he died, something he kept even from me. But when I took over the company, there was nothing. No files, no prototypes, no records, like it never existed. But Marcus found something. And now he's dead. She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. God, what if my battery technology isn't even original? What if I've been recreating something my father already built? Daniel joined her at the window, studying the city lights below. Somewhere out there, enemies were moving against them, pieces on a chessboard they couldn't fully see. We need those files, he said. Whatever Marcus found, we need to see it. The corrupted data is on the company servers. Maybe our IT department can recover. No, we can't trust anyone inside your company, but I know someone who might help. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through contacts until he found the one he needed. Someone who owes me a favor. The number rang twice before a gravelly voice answered. Daniel, Jesus Christ, that really you? Hello, Tommy. Thomas Tommy Rodriguez had served with Daniel in Afghanistan, their squad's tech specialist, before an IED took his left leg and ended his military career. Now he ran a cybersecurity firm in Venice Beach, doing gray area work for whoever paid best. Thought you were dead, brother. After Sarah, you just vanished. I needed to disappear. And now you need to reappear. Must be serious. It is. Can you meet tonight? For you always. But Daniel, I heard things. People looking for you. People with resources and grudges. I know. That's why I need your help. They agreed to meet at Tommy's office, a converted warehouse that looked abandoned from the outside, but housed some of the most sophisticated electronic equipment on the West Coast. Daniel left Olivia and Lila in the secure apartment, though neither was happy about it. I should come with you, Olivia insisted. You should stay with my daughter and make sure no one gets to her. Can you shoot? My father insisted I learn. I have a concealed carry permit. He handed her a Glock 19 from his go bag. Anyone comes through that door who isn't me, you empty the magazine center mass. Don't hesitate. Don't negotiate. Just shoot. She took the weapon with steady hands, checking the chamber like someone who knew what they were doing. How long will you be gone? 2 hours, maybe 3. If I'm not back by dawn, take Lila and run. There's cash and fake IDs in my bag, use them. Daniel. Promise me. Whatever happens to me, you keep her safe. She met his eyes, understanding passing between them. I promise. The drive to Venice Beach took 40 minutes at this hour, the streets mostly empty except for the homeless and the lost. Tommy's warehouse sat between a defunct textile factory and a marijuana dispensary, the perfect cover for someone who valued privacy. Daniel parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot, checking for surveillance. The old instincts were fully awake now. Every shadow a potential threat, every passing car a possible enemy. He felt more alive than he had in 3 years and hated himself for it. Tommy answered the door in a wheelchair, high-tech custom model that probably cost more than most cars. His left leg was gone below the knee, but his smile was the same, crooked and slightly manic. Danny boy, you look like shit. You look like a pirate who raided a Best Buy. Accurate. Tommy wheeled back, letting Daniel enter. The warehouse's interior was a hacker's wet dream. Servers humming, screens everywhere, displaying code and data streams, cables running like veins across the ceiling. So, Tommy said, pouring whiskey that probably wasn't legal. What brings you back from the dead? Daniel explained the attack. Olivia's technology, Marcus Webb's death, the mysterious Project Lightning Rod. Tommy listened, his expression growing increasingly serious. Zhang Industries, he said when Daniel finished. Bad news, brother. They're not just corporate, they're a front for Chinese military intelligence. Been trying to steal American tech for years. Can you recover corrupted data? Depends how it was corrupted. Give me access. I'll take a look. His fingers flew across a keyboard, screens lighting up with code. What's the company? Hartman Industries. Tommy whistled low. Big leagues. Their security is actually decent. I've tested it for fun. You've hacked them before. Not hacked. Probed. There's a difference. More typing. Okay, I'm in their servers. What am I looking for? Project Lightning Rod. Files accessed by Marcus Webb 3 days ago. Found them, and... shit. This wasn't just corrupted, it was professionally destroyed. Military-grade deletion protocols. He leaned forward, interested now. But whoever did it was in a hurry. They missed fragments. Can you recover them? Maybe. Give me an hour. While Tommy worked, Daniel checked in with Olivia. Everything quiet. Lila still sleeping, but something in Olivia's voice seemed off, a tension that hadn't been there before. What's wrong? I've been thinking about my father's death, the heart attack. He was healthy, obsessive about fitness, and the timing right when he was supposed to present something to the Department of Defense. You think he was murdered? I think nothing about this is coincidence. Tommy's shout interrupted them. Got it. Holy shit, Daniel, you need to see this. Daniel moved to look over Tommy's shoulder. On screen were partially recovered documents. Technical specifications, chemical formulas, test results. It was battery technology, but different from what Olivia had described. More primitive, but also more weaponized. This isn't just energy storage, Tommy said. This is a weapon. Electromagnetic pulse capability, directed energy applications. Your girlfriend's father was building a battery that could power weapons we don't even have yet. And someone killed him for it. Or to stop it. Daniel, look at this. Tommy pulled up another fragment, a list of names. This is a Defense Department Black Ops unit. Project Lightning Rod wasn't just Hartman Industries, it was a joint operation with military intelligence. One name on the list made Daniel's blood freeze, Colonel Richard Sterling, his former commander, the man who'd sent them on the mission that killed half his squad. Sterling's involved in this. He died 2 years ago. Car accident. Tommy's voice was grim. Starting to see a pattern. Everyone connected to Project Lightning Rod was dead except Daniel's phone rang. Olivia panicked. Someone's trying to get in. The security panel is going crazy. The sound of shattering glass cut her off, followed by Lila's scream. Daniel was already running for his car. Call 911, barricade yourself in the bedroom. Daniel. More glass breaking, then gunfire. 3 shots controlled bursts, Olivia shooting, then Swantis. Olivia. Nothing. Daniel drove like a man possessed, taking corners at speeds that should have killed him. His mind ran through scenarios, each worse than the last. If they'd hurt Lila, he made it to the building in 12 minutes a drive that should have taken 30. Security was in chaos, guards running everywhere, LAPD units arriving. Daniel badged through using his military ID, taking the stairs 3 at a time because waiting for the elevator would have driven him insane. The apartment door was destroyed, hanging off its hinges. Daniel entered tactically weapon-drawn, a Sig Sauer he'd grabbed from his car. The living room was a war-zone furniture, overturned glass everywhere from the shattered windows. Blood on the carpet, but whose? Lila? His voice cracked. Daddy. She emerged from the bedroom, Olivia behind her holding the Glock. Both were splattered with blood but appeared uninjured. Daniel dropped to his knees, pulling Lila into his arms. Are you hurt? No. Olivia protected me. She shot the bad men. Over Lila's head, he met Olivia's eyes. She was in shock, but holding it together, the weapon still raised like she expected more attackers. How many was? He asked. 3. They came through the window's rappelling gear. Professional. Her voice was eerily calm. I shot 2. The 3rd fled when he heard sirens. Daniel surveyed the scene with new respect. 2 bodies in tactical gear, both with center mass groupings that would make a drill sergeant proud. You did this? My father made me train every week from age 16, said a woman in power needed to be able to protect herself. She finally lowered the weapon. I never thought I'd actually have to kill anyone. The shock was setting in now, her hand starting to shake. Daniel gently took the Glock from her. You saved my daughter's life. She saved mine first, Olivia said, and suddenly she was crying, all the CEO armor crumbling. The 3rd one had me, but Lila threw her rabbit at his face, gave me time to reload. Daniel looked at his 8-year-old daughter, this brave, impossible child who'd inherited Sarah's courage along with her eyes. You threw Mr. Hoppy. He would have hurt Olivia, Lila said simply. And you like her. Before Daniel could process that, LAPD burst in, weapons drawn. The next hour was controlled chaos statements, crime scene text, Detective Morrison arriving to take charge. The dead attackers had no identification, but their equipment was military grade, their tactics professional. This is beyond my pay grade, Morrison admitted. FBI's taking over, probably Homeland Security too. You need to disappear, Daniel, all of you. He was right. They were exposed here, vulnerable. But where could they go that these people couldn't find them? I have a place, Olivia said. She'd recovered her composure, the CEO mask back in place. A cabin in Big Bear, off the books purchased through shell companies. My father's last gift, a bolt hole for emergencies. They'll track. No, he was paranoid about it. No digital footprint, no utility records, and any searchable database. Even I forgot it existed until now. Daniel considered. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than staying here. Pack light, he told them. We leave in 10 minutes. As Lila gathered her things, carefully retrieving Mr. Hoppy from the corner where he'd landed, Olivia approached Daniel. That name on the list, Sterling, you knew him. My former commander. The mission that went wrong. He planned it. You think he was involved in Project Lightning Rod? I think everyone connected to that project is dead except you, and now you're recreating the same technology your father died for. So we find out what Lightning Rod really was, who wanted it stopped, and why they're trying to steal it now. Olivia, you should run. Take your money, disappear, let them have the technology. No. Her green eyes flashed with determination. They killed my father. They killed Marcus. They tried to kill your daughter. This ends when they're stopped, not before. Daniel saw the steel in her, the same determination that had built a corporate empire and revolutionized energy technology. She wouldn't run, neither would he. Then we do this together, he said. Together? She agreed. From across the room, Lila watched them with those 2 knowing eyes holding her rabbit tight. She'd already lost one parent to cancer, nearly lost another to violence tonight. But she wasn't crying, wasn't panicking, like her parents, both the one who'd borne her and the one who'd raised her, she was a survivor. The war for Lightning Rod had begun. And Daniel Cross, the ghost soldier who'd tried so hard to disappear, was about to remind the world why some ghosts should never be awakened. The drive to Big Bear took 3 hours through the pre-dawn darkness. Daniel constantly checking mirrors for tails, while Olivia navigated using paper maps, nothing digital that could be traced. Lila slept in the back seat, clutching Mr. Hoppy, occasionally whimpering from dreams that no 8-year-old should have. "She's traumatized," Olivia said quietly, watching the girl in the rear-view mirror. "She's alive, Daniel replied. "Everything else we can deal with later." The cabin emerged from the pine forest like something from a fairy tale, a modest A-frame structure that looked abandoned from the outside windows, dark roof, thick with pine needles. But Daniel's trained eye caught the details, reinforced door frames, subtle cameras, windows that were likely bulletproof. "Your father built a fortress," he observed. "He built a sanctuary," Olivia corrected, punching a code into a hidden panel, or a prison, depending on how you look at it. The interior was a surprise modern, fully equipped with a sophisticated security system that would make most military bases jealous. Olivia's father had spared no expense in creating his hidden retreat. "There's a workshop in the basement," she said, flicking on lights. "Full laboratory, actually. He did some of his most sensitive work here." Daniel carried Lila to one of the bedrooms, tucking her in without waking her. When he returned, he found Olivia in the kitchen making coffee with hands that shook slightly, the adrenaline finally wearing off. "You killed 2 men tonight," he said gently. "I know." She didn't look at him. "I can still feel the gun jumping in my hands, see their faces through the sights. The first time is always the hardest." "Does it get easier?" "No, it just gets more necessary." He accepted the coffee she offered. "You saved Lila's life. Hold on to that." "She's remarkable, your daughter. Most children would have frozen, but she acted." Her mother's genes. Sarah was the brave one. Olivia studied him over her mug. "Tell me about her." "Sarah." Daniel rarely talked about his wife, but something about the darkness, the shared violence, made him open up. "We met at Walter Reed. I was recovering from my first Purple Heart. She was a pediatric nurse. She said I looked like a lost puppy who'd been kicked too many times." "Romantic." "She was like that, brutally honest but kind about it. We got married 6 months later, right before my second deployment. She waited, never complained, even when I came back different each time." "How did she handle it?" "The changes. She didn't try to fix me, just loved me through it. When the IED happened, when I came back broken in ways that didn't show on x-rays, she held me together." His voice roughened. "Then the cancer came. 18 months from diagnosis to the end. I watched the strongest person I knew waste away, and there was nothing I could do. No enemy to fight, no mission to complete, just helplessness." "I'm sorry." "She made me promise to keep living to raise Lila right, but after she died, I just wanted to disappear. Become nobody, be nothing. Safer that way." "But you couldn't stay hidden, not when someone needed help." "Sarah used to say I had a hero complex, that I needed to save everyone because I couldn't save myself." "Maybe she was right. Or maybe you're just a good man in a world that's forgotten what that means." Before Daniel could respond, his phone buzzed. Tommy Rodriguez. "Brother, you need to know something. I kept digging into Lightning Rod, your Colonel Sterling. He wasn't working alone. There's a whole network, military contractors, intelligence assets, corporate executives. They called themselves the Prometheus Group. What did they want? To prevent certain technologies from disrupting the global balance. Energy weapons, advanced batteries, anything that could shift power too quickly. They weren't stealing tech, they were suppressing it." Daniel put the phone on speaker so Olivia could hear. "Sterling's dead," Daniel said. "So who's running Prometheus now?" "That's the million-dollar question, but I found something else. Nathaniel Hartman wasn't just developing the battery, he was going to give it to China." Olivia gasped. "That's impossible. My father was a patriot." "Your father was a businessman, sir," Tommy interrupted. "China offered him $50 billion for exclusive rights. The Defense Department found out, tried to stop him. The heart attack happened 2 days before the transfer was supposed to occur." "You're saying they killed him?" "I'm saying he died conveniently. And now his daughter has recreated the same technology and the same players are circling. Daniel's mind raced assembling pieces. But the attackers have been trying to kidnap Olivia, not kill her. Because whoever's running Prometheus now wants the technology not to suppress it, but to control it. The game's changed since Nathaniel's time. Any idea who? Working on it. But Daniel, be careful. These people have resources you can't imagine, and they know where you are. How? Because I'm telling them. The voice wasn't Tommy's anymore. Someone else had taken the phone. Daniel recognized it immediately, Richard Sterling, his dead commander. Hello, Sergeant Cross. Been a long time. You're supposed to be dead. Death is a useful fiction. Allows one to work without scrutiny. Sterling's voice was exactly as Daniel remembered, cultured, cold, intelligent. I must admit I didn't expect you to surface. You were doing so well as nobody. Let Tommy go. Oh, Mr. Rodriguez is fine. Unconscious, but fine. We're not monsters, Daniel. We're pragmatists. The technology Ms. Hartman has developed is too dangerous for any one nation or corporation. It needs to be controlled, regulated, distributed carefully. By you. By people who understand the implications. Imagine China with unlimited energy weapons, or terrorists with batteries that could power a dirty bomb indefinitely. Some genies need to stay in their bottles. Olivia grabbed the phone. You killed my father. Your father was going to start World War III for money. We stopped him. Unfortunately, you've inherited both his genius and his stubbornness. So you'll kill me too. I'd prefer your cooperation. Join Prometheus. Help us control the technology's release. Ensure it benefits humanity without destroying it. Go to hell, Sterling sighed. I expected as much. Daniel, you have 24 hours to convince her. After that, we take more direct action. And your daughter, well, let's hope it doesn't come to that. The line went dead. Daniel immediately started packing. We move. Now. He knows we're here. Not yet, but Tommy's equipment will tell them soon enough. We have maybe an hour. They grabbed essentials, Daniel carrying the sleeping Lila to the car. As they pulled away, he saw lights approaching through the forest, multiple vehicles moving fast. Where do we go? Olivia asked. Somewhere they won't expect, somewhere public enough they can't act openly. An idea formed. The conference. You're supposed to present today, actually, in San Francisco. That's insane. They'll be waiting. Exactly. They'll expect us to run to hide. Instead, we walk right into the spotlight. You present your technology to the world, make it public. Once it's out there, killing you becomes pointless. And Prometheus can't operate in the open. Their power comes from shadows, from secrets. We drag them into the light. The drive to San Francisco took 8 hours, using back roads and switching vehicles, twice rentals Daniel had scattered throughout California under false identities, another old habit that now proved invaluable. Lila woke halfway through, accepting their situation with that strange resilience children sometimes possessed. Are we going to be okay, Daddy? Yes, Princess, I promise. You can't promise that, she said seriously. Mom promised she wouldn't leave, but she did. Daniel's heart clenched. In the passenger seat, Olivia reached back to take Lila's hand. You're right, Olivia said. We can't promise everything will be okay, but we can promise to fight for it. To not give up. Is that enough? Lila considered this. I guess. They reached San Francisco as the morning fog rolled in the city, emerging from gray mist like something from a dream. The conference was at the Moscone Center, thousands of attendees expected for the Clean Energy Summit. Olivia's presentation was the keynote, the announcement that would change everything. Daniel left them at a hotel near the center while he scouted. The venue was crawling with security, but he spotted the Tell's men and women who moved wrong for corporate security, too smooth, too aware. Prometheus was here. He called Morrison his detective friend. I need a favor. Big one. Daniel, you're wanted for questioning in connection with, I know, but in 4 hours someone's going to try to assassinate Olivia Hartman at the Clean Energy Summit. I need SFPD there in force, visible, ready. You have proof. I have instinct, and you know my instincts are good. Morrison was quiet for a moment. I'll make some calls. But Daniel, if you're wrong, I'm not. He returned to find Olivia reviewing her presentation while Lila watched cartoons. She'd changed into a power suit, looking every inch the CEO, despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "You're really going through with this. It's the only way. If the technology goes public, if everyone has access to the research, then controlling it becomes impossible. My father tried to sell it to one buyer. I'm giving it to the world. That's worth billions? That's worth my life, and yours, and Lila's." She closed her laptop. "Besides, money isn't everything," said the billionaire. Said the woman who just learned her father was willing to start a war for profit. She stood smoothing her skirt. "I won't be him, Daniel. I won't let greed or fear determine the future." The conference center was packed, the energy palpable. Daniel had positioned himself in the back sightlines to all exits, Lila beside him with strict instructions to stay close. He'd wanted to leave her at the hotel, but after last night, separation seemed more dangerous than proximity. Olivia took the stage to thunderous applause. She looked small behind the podium, but her voice carried clear and strong. "Today I stand before you to announce not just a breakthrough, but a revolution. For 3 years, Hartman Industries has developed a battery technology that will fundamentally change how we generate, store, and use energy." Screens lit up with technical specifications, charts, projections. The audience leaned forward, sensing the magnitude of what was being revealed. "But more importantly," Olivia continued, "I'm announcing that this technology will be open source. Every patent, every formula, every piece of research will be publicly available as of noon today." The audience erupted, gasps, shouts, reporters frantically typing. Daniel spotted movement in his peripheral vision, 3 men pushing through the crowd, hands reaching inside jackets. He moved before thinking, pulling Lila behind a concrete pillar as the first shot rang out. Screams panicked the crowd, surging in all directions. On stage, Olivia dropped behind the podium as security swarmed. Daniel counted muzzle flashes, 3 shooters positioned for crossfire. But they hadn't counted on the SFPD presence Morrison had arranged. Officers flooded in from every entrance, tactical teams that had been waiting for exactly this. The shooters tried to flee, but found exits blocked. Daniel watched one make a desperate break for the emergency exit. Without thinking, he intercepted using the crowd's chaos as cover. They collided hard, the shooter's weapons spinning away. Daniel didn't give him a chance to recover 3 quick strikes, and the man was down unconscious before he hit the floor. "Daddy!" Lila's voice cut through the chaos. She was pointing at the stage where Olivia was being hustled away by security, but one of the security guards moved wrong. Daniel recognized the gate, the positioning. Not protection, but capture. He pushed through the crowd, Lila's hand tight in his. The fake guard was leading Olivia toward a service exit, her arm twisted behind her back, hidden from view by their positioning. "Stop!" Daniel shouted, but his voice was lost in the chaos. He did the only thing he could think of, pulled the fire alarm. The sprinkler system activated, drenching everyone, adding to the confusion, but also making the fake guard pause, looking for the source of the new complication. That moment's hesitation was enough. Daniel reached them, grabbing the guard's wrist and applying pressure to nerve points that made him release Olivia. They grappled briefly, but the man was off balance, surprised. Daniel put him down hard, probably breaking his arm in the process. "You okay?" he asked Olivia, who was soaked and shaking but unharmed. "The presentation, the files already uploaded. Automatically at noon, 10 minutes ago." She managed a weak smile. "It's done. It's out there." Sirens wailed as more police arrived. The shooters were in custody, the immediate threat neutralized. But Daniel knew this was just the beginning. Prometheus wouldn't give up because of one failed attempt. His phone rang. Sterling. Impressive sergeant, using the police as unwitting allies. Very clever. "It's over, Sterling. The technology is public." "Oh, Daniel, you think this was about suppressing the technology?" "That was the old game. The new game is controlling who uses it first, who weaponizes it best. And that game has just begun." "What do you mean?" Check the news. Beijing, Moscow, Tel Aviv. Military installations in all 3 cities are reporting energy signatures consistent with Ms. Hartman's battery technology. Someone has already weaponized it, already deployed it. The question is who? Daniel's blood ran cold. You. Prometheus built weapons. We built safeguards, but someone has activated them without authorization. Someone inside Prometheus has gone rogue, decided to start the war we've spent decades preventing. Who? That's what I need to find out. And despite our differences, I think we want the same thing to prevent global catastrophe. The enemy of my enemy, Sergeant. You tried to kill us. I tried to contain a situation. Now that situation has exploded beyond anyone's control. Work with me or watch the world burn. Your choice. Daniel looked at Olivia, at Lila, at the chaos around them. 3 hours ago, their biggest problem was staying alive. Now they were talking about preventing World War III. What do you need? He asked Sterling. The complete technical specifications, not the public version, the real ones. Someone has built weapons we don't fully understand, and Ms. Hartman is the only person who knows how they truly work. And if we help you, then maybe we live long enough to regret it. I'll send coordinates. 1 hour. Come alone. Like hell. Fine, bring your child soldiers if you must. But Daniel understand this in the next 24 hours. Either we stop this or major cities start disappearing. Beijing is evacuating government officials. Moscow has gone to full military alert. The clock is ticking. The line went dead. Olivia was staring at him. You can't trust him. He killed my father. I know, but if he's telling the truth about the weapons... She pulled out her phone, checking international news. Her face went pale. Energy readings in 3 cities, military buildups, NATO's convening an emergency session. She looked up. What have I done? You gave the world a gift. Someone else turned it into a weapon. Same result. Lila tugged on Daniel's sleeve. Are we the good guys or the bad guys? It was such a simple question with such a complicated answer. How did you explain to a child that sometimes there were no good guys, just people trying to minimize the damage? We're the ones trying to stop people from getting hurt, he said finally. Then we're the good guys, Lila decided with 8-year-old certainty. If only it were that simple. The coordinates Sterling had sent led to an abandoned warehouse in Oakland, the kind of place where bad things happen to careless people. Daniel approached carefully, Olivia and Lila in the car a block away with strict instructions to flee if he didn't return in 20 minutes. Sterling was waiting inside, and Daniel's shock was physical. His former commander was supposed to be dead, but here he stood, scarred but very much alive. The left side of his face showed burn marks. His left arm moved stiffly, but his eyes were sharp as ever. Car accident? Daniel asked. Car bomb. Courtesy of someone who didn't appreciate Prometheus's work. I survived, decided death was a useful cover. Sterling gestured to a table covered with documents, laptops, maps. The situation is worse than I told you. How much worse? The weapons in Beijing, Moscow, and Tel Aviv aren't just tests. They're countdown timers. In 18 hours, unless they receive the proper shutdown codes, they'll detonate. Detonate. Electromagnetic pulses powered by Ms. Hartman's battery technology. Enough to knock out every electronic device in a 50-mile radius. No phones, no computers, no infrastructure. The cities would collapse into chaos within hours. Daniel studied the document's technical readouts, satellite imagery, intelligence reports. It was real, terrifyingly real. Who's doing this? Someone calling themselves Cassandra. We think it's someone inside Prometheus, someone who decided that preventing war wasn't enough, that humanity needed to be shocked into abandoning these technologies altogether. By starting the war you were trying to prevent, extremists always think they're saving the world. Sterling pulled up a photograph. Recognize her. Daniel's shock was complete. The woman in the photo was Emma Richardson, someone he'd worked with years ago, someone he'd trusted. Former Secret Service, brilliant, dedicated, and apparently completely insane. Emma's Cassandra. We think so. She disappeared 6 months ago after arguing that Prometheus wasn't going far enough, said we were just delaying the inevitable, that only a demonstration of the technology's destructive power would convince humanity to abandon it. So she's going to destroy 3 cities to make a point. Unless we stop her. How? Sterling smiled grimly. That's where Ms. Hartman comes in. She created the technology, she can create the shutdown codes. But we need the real specifications, not the sanitized version she released publicly. Daniel made the call. 20 minutes later, Olivia arrived, leaving Lila in the locked car, despite the girls' protests. She entered the warehouse like a queen entering enemy territory head high, despite the fear in her eyes. "Ms. Hartman," Sterling said, "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances. You killed my father. Your father was going to sell technology to China that would have started an arms race ending in nuclear war. I prevented that. By murdering him. By stopping him. The method was regrettable but necessary." Sterling gestured to the evidence spread on the table. "Just as stopping Cassandra is necessary now." Olivia examined the documents, her expression growing increasingly horrified. "These readings. Someone has weaponized my technology beyond anything I imagined. The power output is incredible. Can you create shutdown codes? Maybe, but I'd need access to the weapons themselves, or at least their control systems. Cassandra will have those. We need to find her." "And how do we do that?" Daniel asked. Sterling smiled coldly. "She'll come to us. You see, there's one more component needed for her plan. The original lightning rod prototype. Your father's real work, Ms. Hartman. The weapon he was building before we stopped him. I told you I never found... Because we took it, stored it in a Prometheus facility in Nevada. Cassandra needs it to complete her network to link the 3 weapons into a coordinated strike. She'll come for it. So we use it as bait. We use everything as bait. The prototype, Ms. Hartman, even your daughter, if necessary." Daniel's hand moved to his weapon. "Touch my daughter and..." "Relax, Sergeant. I'm not a monster. But Cassandra knows your weakness will try to exploit it. We need to be ready." Over the next 6 hours, they planned. The Prometheus facility in Nevada was a fortress underground heavily defended, designed to withstand anything short of a nuclear strike. Sterling would take Olivia there to work on the shutdown codes while Daniel coordinated security. But as they prepared to leave, Lila surprised them all. "The lady is already here," she said quietly. Everyone froze. "What lady, princess?" Daniel asked. "The one who's been watching us. She has a silver car and pretty red hair. She parked across the street 20 minutes ago." Daniel moved to the window carefully. A silver sedan, someone inside, red hair visible through the windshield. Emma Richardson waiting. "She knows we're here," Sterling said. "This was always a trap." Before anyone could respond, the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Then Emma's voice echoed through the warehouse, coming from everywhere and nowhere. "Hello, Richard. Daniel, Ms. Hartman. I've been waiting for you to figure it out." "Emma," Sterling called out, "this isn't the way. Isn't it 40 years of Prometheus preventing wars by maintaining the status quo? But the status quo is killing the planet, Richard. We need shock therapy, not gradual change. You'll kill millions. To save billions, the electromagnetic pulses will destroy the infrastructure of militaristic technology. No more smart weapons, no more drone strikes, no more electronic warfare. Humanity will be forced to step back from the brink." "For how long?" Olivia called out. "Technology can be rebuilt. Not if everyone sees what it leads to. Not if the horror is great enough." Movement in the shadows. Daniel pushed Olivia down as gunfire erupted. Not Emma, she'd brought backup. Sterling returned fire, surprisingly agile for a man supposedly killed in a car bomb. "Get to the car," Daniel shouted to Olivia. "Get Lila out of here." But Olivia was already moving not away but toward a laptop on the table. "I need the data. Without it, we can't stop the weapons." Daniel provided covering fire while she downloaded files. Sterling beside him, their old soldier synchronization returning despite the years and betrayals between them. "Just like Kandahar, yeah," Sterling shouted over the gunfire. "Except this time you're not sending us into an ambush. That wasn't intentional. Tell that to Martinez." They fought their way to the exit, Olivia clutching the laptop. The car was 20 yards away, Lila's frightened face visible through the window, but Emma stood between them and safety weapon raised. "It doesn't have to end like this," she said. "Join me. Help me save the world." By destroying it. Daniel kept his weapon trained on her. By resetting it. Sometimes you have to burn the forest to save it. My daughter is in that car. You think I'll let you? Your daughter will inherit a dead world if we don't act. Climate change, resource wars, technological terrorism, Is that the future you want for her? For a moment, Daniel wavered. She wasn't entirely wrong. The world Lila would inherit was broken, possibly beyond repair. But then he thought of Sarah, her faith that people could choose to be better, that hope mattered more than fear. Yes, so, he said, because she'll also inherit the chance to fix it, without murdering millions. Emma's face hardened. Then you're part of the problem. She raised her weapon, but Lila's voice cut through the tension. Please don't hurt my daddy. The 8-year-old had gotten out of the car, standing small and brave in the warehouse lights. He's trying to help. We all are. Why can't you see that? Emma hesitated, the weapon wavering. In that moment, Daniel saw not a terrorist, but a broken woman who'd lost faith in humanity's ability to save itself. Get back in the car, princess, he said gently. No. She needs to hear this. Lila stepped forward, fearless in the way only children could be. My mommy died trying to make people better. She said even when things are bad, we have to believe they can get better. Otherwise, what's the point? Emma's weapon lowered slightly. Your mother sounds like she was naive. She was dying and still believed, Lila said. That's not naive. That's brave. The standoff stretched everyone frozen. Then Emma made her choice, the weapon coming back up, aimed at Sterling. The prototype location. Now. Never. Then I'll take the girl. Daniel will trade the information for her. She moved toward Lila, and that was her mistake. Daniel didn't think, just reacted. The shot was perfect, shoulder spinning her around, weapon flying. She went down hard, clutching the wound. You always were too emotional, Richardson, Sterling said, standing over her. It's why you washed out of Secret Service. Emma laughed bitterly, blood seeping between her fingers. You think you've won, the weapons are already armed. Without me, you'll never find the abort codes. We'll see about that, Olivia said, opening the laptop. Her fingers flew across the keyboard code, scrolling past. Daniel, I need 10 minutes. You have 5 before her backup arrives. But Emma's backup was already fleeing, the sirens growing closer. Whatever loyalty she'd inspired didn't extend to facing arrest. The 3 cities, Emma gasped, growing weaker. They were just the beginning. There are 12 more weapons in 12 more cities, all connected, all counting down. Where? Sterling demanded. Emma smiled bloodily. Everywhere that matters. London, Tokyo, Delhi, New York. The whole world will learn the price of technological arrogance. The abort codes, yet, Daniel pressed. Give them to us. Can't. They're biometric, locked to me. And in about 2 minutes, I'll be too weak to activate them. Daniel knelt beside her. Then activate them now. Save those lives. Why, so humanity can continue its march towards self-destruction. So my daughter can have a chance to grow up. So millions of other daughters and sons can have that chance. Emma looked at Lila, something flickering in her eyes. She really does look like her mother. You knew Sarah? We met once, at a medical conference. She was presenting on pediatric trauma care in war zones. Said children deserved a chance to heal no matter what horror they'd witnessed. Emma coughed, blood speckling her lips. I thought she was naive, too. She wasn't. She was right. Emma closed her eyes. The codes are in my apartment. Biometric safe. You'll need my thumbprint and retinal scan. Still conscious enough for both, but barely. Where's your apartment? She gave the address, then grabbed Daniel's hand with surprising strength. I wanted to save the world. How did it come to this? The road to hell, Sterling said coldly, is paved with good intentions, Emma finished. Story of Prometheus. The sirens were right outside now. Daniel looked at Sterling. We need to go. Now. Agreed. Miss Hartman. I've got partial locks on 5 weapons, but I need those abort codes for the rest. They loaded into 2 vehicles, Sterling taking Emma in one, Daniel driving Olivia and Lila in another. The race to Emma's apartment was tense, every second counting down toward potential catastrophe. The apartment was sparse functional, the home of someone who'd given up on normal life. The safe was hidden behind a false wall, sophisticated but not impregnable once Emma provided her biometrics. Inside were drives, documents, and a single photograph, Emma, with a young girl perhaps 5 years old. My daughter, Emma said weakly, died in a terrorist attack. Cyber terrorism that knocked out hospital power grids. She was on life support. The pieces clicked into place for Daniel. Emma's crusade wasn't about saving the world, it was about punishing it for taking her daughter. "I'm sorry," he said, meaning it. "Don't be. Just stop what I started." Olivia was already working uploading abort codes, fingers flying across multiple keyboards Sterling's team had brought. Got London and Tokyo, working on Delhi. The tension was unbearable, each second potentially the last before catastrophe. Lila sat quietly beside Daniel, her small hand in his, both of them, watching Olivia work her technological magic. "Delhi's clear. New York. New York is fighting me." 3 minutes until the first deadline, Sterling announced. "I know I'm trying." Daniel had never felt more helpless. In combat, he could act, could fight. Here, their fate rested in lines of code and electronic signals he didn't understand. "Got it!" Olivia shouted. "New York is safe, moving to Moscow." One by one, she disabled the weapons, each success feeling like a miracle. Beijing was last the most complex, the countdown at 30 seconds, when she finally broke through. "Clear," she said, sagging with exhaustion. "All weapons neutralized." The relief was overwhelming. Daniel pulled both Olivia and Lila into an embrace, feeling them both shaking. They'd done it. They'd prevented global catastrophe. "It's not over," Sterling said. "The technology is still out there. Others will try to weaponize it." "Then we stop them," Olivia said firmly. "We monitor, we regulate, we ensure it's used for good. Prometheus was right about one thing: this technology needs guardians, but not secret ones. Open, accountable, dedicated to progress, not suppression." Sterling studied her. "You're proposing reform Prometheus. I'm proposing something better. A consortium of nations, corporations, and individuals committed to responsible development. No shadows, no assassinations, just transparent governance. Idealistic. Necessary, sir," Daniel countered. "The old way led to this. Time for something new." Emma died as the sun set, her last words a warning about others who shared her vision, extremists who would rather see the world burn than change slowly. But for now, the immediate threat was over. That night in a hotel room paid for with cash, Daniel tucked Lila into bed. She looked up at him with those serious gray eyes. "Are we safe now, Daddy?" "Safer," he said honestly. "But safety isn't permanent. We have to work for it every day. Like Mom worked to help sick people. Exactly like that." She was quiet for a moment. "I like Olivia." "Yeah. She's smart and brave and she protected me. Mom would like her too." Daniel's throat tightened. "I think you're right. Are you going to marry her?" "What, no, princess, it's not. We just met, and Mom said when you know you know. She knew with you right away." Daniel had no answer for that. Lila smiled, looking more like Sarah than ever. "It's okay, Daddy. You deserve to be happy too." After she fell asleep, Daniel found Olivia on the hotel room's small balcony, staring out at the city lights. "Thinking about your father," he asked. "Thinking about everything. How he was willing to sell to China, how Sterling killed him for it, how Emma nearly destroyed cities in the name of saving them. Everyone so sure they were right. And you, I just wanted to create something that would help people. Clean energy, better world, simple goal. Now, look where we are. We saved millions of lives today, after endangering them by releasing the technology." Daniel turned her to face him. "You couldn't have known someone would weaponize it so quickly." "Couldn't I? My father did. That's why he was willing to sell. He knew someone would eventually might as well profit from it." "You're not your father." "No, but I'm his daughter, his legacy." "You're your own person, and today that person chose to save lives rather than profit from death." She leaned into him, and he held her, feeling her tears soak through his shirt. They stood there as the city hummed below, two damaged people who'd found each other in the midst of chaos. "What happens now?" she asked. "We build your consortium. We monitor the technology. We try to make the world Lila will inherit a little better. Together, if you'll have us. Fair warning, we come with baggage." "We all do." She pulled back, looking up at him. "Daniel, He kissed her, cutting off whatever she was going to say. It was probably too soon, definitely complicated, but after everything they'd been through, waiting seemed pointless. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she smiled. Lila's right, you know. Sarah would approve. How did you... Thin walls. 8-year-olds aren't quiet even when they think they are. They laughed the sound strange after so much tension and violence. But it felt good, felt human, felt like hope. Inside, Lila smiled in her sleep, dreaming of a future where her daddy was happy again, where families could be rebuilt from broken pieces, where second chances were possible even after the darkest moments. The war for Lightning Rod was over, but the fight for the future had just begun. And Daniel Cross, no longer a ghost, but not quite a soldier, had found something worth fighting for again. Not just his daughter's safety, but the possibility of a world worth her inheriting. 6 weeks had passed since the crisis, but Daniel couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. He stood at the window of Hartman Industries' new secure facility, observing the morning shift change while his hand unconsciously checked the Sig Sauer concealed beneath his jacket. Old habits weren't just dying hard, they were refusing to die at all. "You're doing it again," Olivia said from behind him. She'd moved silently, a skill she'd been developing under his tutelage. Looking for ghosts. She handed him coffee black, no sugar, exactly how he'd learned to drink it in Afghanistan. "Sterling's people swept the building twice this week. We're clean." Sterling's people missed Emma Richardson for 6 months. Fair point. She stood beside him, their shoulders touching. The past weeks had been a careful dance between them, neither wanting to push too fast despite what had happened that night in the hotel. Lila needed stability, and they both needed to figure out what they were to each other beyond crisis partners. "Speaking of Sterling," Olivia continued, "he's here. Conference room 3. Daniel's jaw tightened. Richard Sterling had become an uneasy ally, helping establish what they now called the Global Energy Oversight Consortium. But Daniel couldn't forget the man had sent his squad into an ambush, had killed Olivia's father, had operated in shadows for decades. The conference room was already occupied when they arrived. Sterling sat at one end of the table, looking every inch the former military commander, despite his civilian suit. Beside him was someone Daniel didn't recognize. A young woman, maybe 25, with sharp features and sharper eyes. "Ms. Hartman, Sergeant Cross," Sterling said formally. "This is Agent Chen, NSA." Daniel's instincts prickled. Since when does the NSA care about energy technology? "Since that technology nearly destroyed 15 cities, Agent Chen replied, her voice carrying a subtle accent, British, but trying to hide it. "My superiors are concerned about security protocols." "Your superiors can..." Daniel started, but Olivia touched his arm. "What specific concerns?" she asked diplomatically. Chen pulled out a tablet, sliding it across the table. On screen were satellite images, technical readouts, shipping manifests. 3 days ago, components matching your battery technology specifications were purchased by shell companies in Pakistan, North Korea, and Iran. The room went cold. Daniel studied the data, his mind already running tactical scenarios. "How?" Olivia demanded. "The public release was deliberately incomplete. Without the catalyst formula..." "Someone has the complete specifications," Sterling interrupted. "Either they reverse-engineered them, which is unlikely given the time frame, or someone inside is selling them," Daniel finished. Chen nodded. "We've identified unusual financial transactions from 3 Hartman Industries employees, large deposits from offshore accounts structured to avoid detection." "Who?" Olivia's voice was ice. "Dr. James Morrison, Senior Research, Lisa Park Systems Security, and Robert Crenshaw, your Chief Financial Officer." Olivia's face went pale. "Robert's been with the company 15 years. He was my father's best friend." "Which would give him access to everything," Sterling pointed out, "including Project Lightning Rod files." Daniel was already moving, pulling out his phone. "We need to lock down the facility. No one in or out until..." The lights flickered. Then the fire alarm screamed to life. "That's not a drill," Daniel said, recognizing the pattern. 3 short bursts, pause, repeat. The evacuation signal for hazardous material breach. "The lab..." Olivia gasped. "If someone's sabotaging the prototype batteries..." She was already running. Daniel followed barking orders into his phone for security to seal all exits. But as they reached the laboratory level, he knew they were too late. The security door was open, its electronic lock sparking. Inside the lab was chaos equipment, overturned chemicals spilling. And in the center, Robert Crenshaw transferring files to a portable drive. "Robert," Olivia's voice broke. "What are you doing?" The CFO turned and Daniel saw the gun in his hand before Olivia did. He shoved her aside as Crenshaw fired the bullet, catching Daniel in the shoulder instead of hitting Olivia's center mass. The impact spun him around, dropping him hard. "I'm sorry," Crenshaw said, continuing to download files even as he kept the gun trained on them. "But they have my daughter." "What?" Olivia crawled to Daniel, pressing her hands against his wound. 3 weeks ago. Took her from college, said they'd kill her if I didn't deliver the complete specifications." Tears ran down Crenshaw's face. "I tried to stall to find her myself, but they sent me her finger, Olivia. Her finger." Daniel forced himself up despite the pain, his vision swimming. "Who has her?" "I don't know. They only communicate through encrypted messages. They wanted everything, the original lightning rod files, your new developments, the consortium security protocols." "We can help," Olivia pleaded. "Put the gun down, Robert. We'll find Amy." "It's too late. If I don't deliver in 10 minutes, they'll kill her." The download completed and Crenshaw pocketed the drive. "I'm sorry, Olivia. Your father would understand. He'd do the same for you." He backed toward the emergency exit gun still raised. Daniel tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't cooperate, blood loss making him dizzy. "The drive has a tracker," Agent Chen's voice came over the intercom she'd been monitoring from security. "Let him go. We'll follow." Crenshaw fled. Olivia helped Daniel to his feet, her hands steady despite the blood covering them. "Medical's on the way," she said. "I'm fine. It's through and through." He'd been shot worse in Afghanistan. "We need to follow Crenshaw. You need treatment. I need to stop whoever's behind this before they get that technology." Sterling appeared in the doorway, taking in the scene with professional assessment. "Chen's tracking the drive. We have teams ready to move." "I'm going with them," Daniel insisted. "You're bleeding out." "I'm functional." He straightened, ignoring the fire in his shoulder. "Whoever took Crenshaw's daughter knew exactly how to leverage him. This isn't random, it's targeted." "Agreed," Sterling said. "The question is whether they really have the girl or if Crenshaw's being played." A thought struck Daniel. "Chen, can you pull up Amy Crenshaw's social media last 3 weeks?" "Why?" Olivia asked. "Because if she's really been kidnapped, there'll be a gap. But if she's posting normally," Chen's fingers flew across her tablet. "Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all active. Latest post was 2 hours ago complaining about a statistics exam." "She's at school," Daniel said. "Crenshaw's being manipulated." "The finger could be anyone's. Or faked entirely. Hollywood-quality prosthetics are disturbingly realistic." He pulled out his phone, ignoring his injured arm's protests. "We need to intercept him before the handoff." The tracker showed Crenshaw heading east toward the industrial district. Daniel insisted on riding along despite Olivia's protests, Sterling's tactical team providing backup. His shoulder throbbed with each heartbeat, but adrenaline kept him focused. "He's stopping," Chen announced from her mobile command post. "Warehouse District Building 47. Daniel knew the area abandoned factories perfect for clandestine meetings. They positioned themselves around the building, thermal imaging showing 5 heat signatures inside, including Crenshaw. "We go in quiet," Sterling commanded. "Priority is recovering the drive and identifying the buyers." But Daniel was already moving using shadows, and his injured arms forced slower pace to actually improve his stealth. The warehouse's side entrance was unlocked, sloppy or intentional trap. Inside, he could hear voices. "You're late," someone said with a Middle Eastern accent. "I had complications," Crenshaw replied, his voice shaking. "Where's my daughter?" "Safe. The drive first." Daniel peered around a stack of crates. 4 men surrounded Crenshaw, all armed. But something was off about their positioning, too relaxed, too confident. Either they were amateurs or the attack came from above. Figures in black tactical gear rappelled through the skylights, firing gas grenades. Not Sterling's team, someone else? Daniel pulled his shirt over his nose and mouth, recognizing military-grade crowd control agents. Through the chaos, he saw one of the attackers grab the drive from Crenshaw before ziplining back up. "Move!" Sterling's voice in his earpiece. Someone's hijacking the exchange. Daniel pursued on instinct, climbing a maintenance ladder, one-handed, his wounded shoulder screaming. He reached the roof as the attackers were loading into a helicopter. One turned, raising a weapon, and Daniel recognized the face despite the tactical mask. Emma Richardson's warning echoed in his mind. Others share my vision. The woman facing him had Emma's same fervent eyes, the same true believer intensity. She didn't shoot, just smiled coldly before the helicopter lifted off. They got away, he reported, watching the aircraft disappear into the morning haze. Not entirely, Chen responded. I tagged the drive with a secondary tracker microscopic. They won't find it. Back in the warehouse, Crenshaw was sobbing the gas clearing to reveal the 4 men unconscious but alive. Sterling's team secured them initial identification, suggesting low-level arms dealers, not the masterminds. They played everyone, Sterling said grimly. Set up Crenshaw used him to draw out potential buyers, then stole the prize themselves. Emma's people, Daniel said. Has to be. Same tactics, same ideology, probably. But Emma's dead. Movements don't die with their leaders. Sometimes they get worse. Olivia was waiting at the facility's medical bay, Lila beside her. His daughter ran to him, then stopped short, seeing the blood. Daddy. Just a scratch, princess. He knelt carefully, letting her see he was okay. Were you good for Olivia? She taught me about batteries. The safe kind, not the weapon kind. Of course she did. As the medical team worked on his shoulder properly this time, Chen's tracker provided real-time intelligence. The helicopter had landed at a private airfield, the occupants transferring to vehicles heading north. They're going to the mountains, Chen reported. Satellites showing an abandoned mining complex recently reactivated. Power signatures consistent with battery weapons. Olivia finished. They're building them. How many could they produce with the stolen specs? Depends on their resources, but if they have even basic manufacturing capability, dozens, maybe hundreds. Daniel stood despite the doctor's protests. We need to move now. You need surgery, the doctor insisted. Later. Daniel, Olivia said firmly, you're no good to anyone if you bleed out. Let Sterling's team handle the initial reconnaissance. These people are Emma's disciples. I know how they think. Then advise from here. You don't have to be on site to be useful. She was right, though it killed him to admit it. As the doctor worked, Daniel studied the intelligence Chen was gathering. The mining complex was perfect for clandestine operations, isolated pre-existing infrastructure, multiple escape routes through old tunnels. It's a fortress, Sterling observed. We'll need significant resources to assault it. Or we could be smarter, Daniel suggested. They expect force. What if we give them something else? What did you have in mind? A defector. Someone who claims to share their vision, wants to join their cause. He looked at Olivia. Someone with intimate knowledge of the technology. Absolutely not, Sterling said immediately. Too dangerous. He's right, Olivia said, surprising everyone. It is too dangerous, which is why I should do it. Olivia, listen, they know I created the technology. If I approached them claimed I'd realized the horror of what I'd unleashed, wanted to help contain it, they might believe it. Or they might kill you on sight. It's a risk. But Daniel's right direct assault will result in casualties, maybe them detonating whatever weapons they've built. We need subtlety. Daniel hated the plan even as he recognized its merit. You'd need backup, someone inside with you. You can barely stand. Not me. Someone they wouldn't suspect. His eyes found Lila and his heart clenched. No, forget it. Bad idea. What? Olivia asked. Nothing. We'll find another way. But Lila, too perceptive as always, understood. You think they'd let Olivia in if she had me with her, like she was protecting me from the bad world. Lila, no. Mom would do it, his daughter said quietly. If it would save people, Mom would do it. The room went silent. Daniel felt trapped between his soldiers' understanding of necessity and his father's need to protect. Sarah would have understood this moment, would have known what to say. There has to be another way, he said finally. There is, Agent Chen interrupted. We've identified one of the buyers Crenshaw was supposed to meet. Dmitry Volkov, Russian arms dealer. He's furious about the hijacked exchange, wants revenge. So we offer him a deal. He helps us get inside, we let him walk away after. You want to partner with an arms dealer, son? Sterling sounded skeptical. I want to use an asset who's already motivated. Volkov has connections, resources, and a grudge. Perfect combination. Daniel considered it. He'd need incentive beyond revenge. Limited immunity, safe passage out of the country, maybe some seized assets returned. The Justice Department will never approve that. Chen smiled coldly. They already have. Turns out Volkov has information about other threats. This could be a package deal. 2 hours later, Daniel sat across from Dmitry Volkov in a federal holding facility. The Russian was exactly what he'd expected, scarred, pragmatic, radiating barely contained violence. You want me to help you, Volkov said in accented English, after your people arrested me, after you tried to buy illegal weapons technology. I am businessman, supply and demand. Right now, demand exceeds supply, and someone stole your supply. Help us get it back and you walk away. Volkov studied him. You are soldier, I can tell. Afghanistan. Iraq and Afghanistan. I was in Chechnya. Different flag, same hell. He leaned back. These people who stole from me, fanatics, yes, true believers. Something like that. I hate fanatics. Bad for business. No negotiation, no compromise, no profit. He smiled, gold teeth glinting. I will help, but I want more than immunity. Such as the technology. Not weapons, just batteries. Imagine unlimited power for remote operations, worth billions in legitimate market. Is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. Volkov pulled out a phone Daniel hadn't realized he still had. I make call. My people, they track these fanatics too. Professional courtesy to know who steals from you. He spoke rapid Russian, then listened, his expression growing interested. They are not just building weapons. They are recruiting. Scientists, engineers, former military, building army of believers. How many? Maybe hundreds so far, but growing. They promise better world through controlled destruction, appeal to idealists who think civilization needs reset. Daniel's blood chilled. This was bigger than they'd thought. Not just Emma's remnants, but an actual movement. Can you get us inside? Maybe. I still have meet scheduled with someone inside their organization. Double agent selling to both sides. Volkov smiled. Capitalism beats fanaticism every time. Who? Dr. Lisa Park. Daniel's jaw dropped. Park was one of the suspected insider threats at Hartman Industries, but if she was playing all sides, she's not a true believer. She is believer in money. Stole from your company, sold to fanatics, tried to sell to me also. Smart, but greedy. Can you arrange a meeting? Already arranged tonight. She thinks I come alone for technology exchange. Volkov's smile turned predatory. Surprise when I bring friends. The meeting was set for an abandoned truck stop 50 miles into the desert. Daniel's shoulder was held together with surgical tape and determination, but he insisted on leading the operation. Sterling commanded one team, Chen, another Volkov, serving as bait. Olivia had wanted to come, but Daniel convinced her to stay with Lila. If this went wrong, his daughter needed someone, and he trusted Olivia completely now. The truck stop materialized from the darkness like a post-apocalyptic monument. Park's vehicle was already there, along with 2 others, security, presumably. Remember Shate, Daniel told Volkov, we need her alive. Alive, yes, unharmed. That was not discussed. They approached carefully, Daniel and Sterling's team, in overwatch positions while Volkov walked in openly. Through night vision, Daniel watched Park emerge from her car, nervous but trying to hide it. You came alone, she asked. As agreed, you have technology. Samples. The full package requires more money. Of course. May I see samples? Park produced a case, opening it to reveal battery cells that made Daniel's breath catch. They were weapons-grade, miniaturized beyond anything Olivia had publicly revealed. These are prototypes, Park was saying. Each one could power a directed energy weapon for movement in Daniel's peripheral vision. More vehicles approaching running dark. Not their backup. Abort, he whispered into his mic. Park's been followed. But it was too late. The new arrivals opened fire not at Volkov or Park, but at the overwatch positions. They'd been made. Contact, Sterling shouted. Multiple hostiles. The truck stop erupted into a firefight. Daniel dropped 2 attackers before having to displace his shoulder screaming. Park was screaming too, caught in the crossfire, while Volkov had taken cover behind his armored car, returning fire with disturbing enthusiasm. Chen, we need backup. Already en route. 2 minutes. 2 minutes was forever in a firefight. Daniel kept moving, using the abandoned buildings for cover, picking off attackers with precision. But there were too many, and they were well trained. Then he saw her, the woman from the helicopter, Emma's disciple. She was moving toward Park, who was crawling toward her car case still in hand. Daniel intercepted, tackling the woman before she reached Park. They went down hard, grappling in the dirt. She was skilled, going for his injured shoulder immediately, but Daniel had been fighting through pain his whole life. He managed to get his arm around her throat, applying a sleeper hold. Emma was right about you, she gasped. Too emotional. It'll get you killed. Maybe, but not today. She went limp, unconscious, but alive. Daniel secured her with zip ties, then turned to find Park pointing a gun at him. I'm not going to prison, she said. You're not going anywhere. Put it down. You don't understand. These people, Emma's followers, they're everywhere. In governments, militaries, corporations. This is bigger than just weapons. It's a revolution. Funded by people like you selling to the highest bidder. I'm a survivor. I picked the winning side. There are no winners in what they're planning. Park laughed bitterly. There are always winners. The question is whether you're one of them. Sirens in the distance. Chen's backup arriving. Park looked around, calculating odds. The mining facility, she said suddenly. They're not just building weapons there. They have something else. Something from the original lightning rod project. What? A prototype your girlfriend's father built but never revealed. A battery that doesn't just store energy, it amplifies it, exponentially. One device could power a city, or destroy it. Daniel's blood went cold. Where exactly? Coordinates are in the case, along with everything else you need. She lowered the gun. I'm not a fanatic, just an opportunist who picked wrong. But those people at the mine, they'll use that prototype. Soon. The backup arrived, securing the scene. Park was arrested, the woman Daniel had subdued, taken for interrogation. But the case she'd indicated contained more than just battery samples. It held detailed plans for something called Project Reset, a coordinated attack on global infrastructure using the amplification technology. They're planning to hit 50 cities simultaneously, Chen said, studying the documents. Not to destroy them, but to permanently disable all electronics. Force humanity back to pre-digital age. Can they do it? Sterling asked. Daniel looked at the specifications. Even with his limited technical knowledge, he could see the devastating potential. We need Olivia to look at this. Now! They rushed back to the facility where Olivia was waiting with Lila asleep on the couch beside her. She went pale, reviewing the documents. This is my father's work, but modified, weaponized beyond anything he imagined. She looked up. The amplification matrix, it's brilliant and terrifying. One device could create a cascading electromagnetic pulse that would spread through power grids, communication networks, everything connected. How do we stop it? We can't, not remotely. Someone would have to physically disrupt the amplification process at the source. She pulled up schematics on her computer. Based on these plans, they'd need a significant power source to initiate. The mining facility has old hydroelectric generators, but they'd need to modify them. How long would that take? If they have the right people, days, maybe a week. Park said soon. We might only have hours. Daniel stood, decision made. We hit them now. Full assault. With what authority? Sterling asked. This is domestic terrorism now. FBI, ATF, Homeland. Everyone will want jurisdiction. Then we give it to them all. Joint task force, immediate mobilization. That'll take time we don't have. Not if we're already moving when they catch up. It was borderline insubordination, possibly illegal, definitely dangerous. But Daniel had learned long ago that sometimes the right choice and the legal choice weren't the same. I'm going with you, Olivia said. No, you're staying here with Lila. You need someone who understands the technology. If they've modified the amplification matrix, I'm the only one who can stop it safely." She was right, and he hated it. But before he could respond, Lila stirred, blinking awake. "You're going to fight the bad people." "Yes, princess? Both of you." Daniel knelt beside her. "We have to keep everyone safe." Lila was quiet for a moment, then reached for her backpack. She pulled out a photograph Sarah taken just weeks before the cancer got bad. Beautiful, smiling, alive. "Mom said to give this to you when you remembered how to be brave. Not soldier brave, but person brave. The kind where you fight for something more than survival." Daniel's eyes burned. Even from beyond, Sarah was guiding him. "She'd like Olivia," Lila continued. "She'd say you found someone worth the risk." Olivia knelt beside them, pulling Lila into a hug. "We'll come back, both of us. Promise. Promise." It was a promise they might not be able to keep, but sometimes lies were necessary kindness. The assault force assembled at dawn, Sterling's Prometheus remnants, Chen's NSA tactical team, Volkov's mercenaries offered in exchange for additional considerations and local law enforcement. Sterling had somehow convinced to stand down. 50 operators against an unknown number of fanatics in a fortified position. Daniel and Olivia rode in the command vehicle studying real-time satellite imagery. The mining facility was active heat signatures showing at least 60 people defensive positions being reinforced. "They know we're coming," Sterling observed. "Good," Daniel said. "They'll focus on the main assault while our infiltration team goes through the old mine shafts." Infiltration team being you and Ms. Hartman. And a small security element. We need to reach the amplification device while you keep them busy. It's suicide. It's necessary. The mountains loomed ahead dawn, painting them blood red. Somewhere in those peaks, fanatics prepared to reset human civilization. And Daniel Cross, ghost soldier turned protector, prepared to stop them. "Whatever happens," Olivia said quietly, taking his hand, "I'm glad we're doing this together." He squeezed back, thinking of Sarah's photograph in his pocket, of Lila waiting for them to return, of the world that needed protecting even when it didn't deserve it. "Together," he agreed. The convoy began its ascent, driving toward a battle that would determine whether technology would enslave or liberate humanity. In the command vehicle, Daniel checked his weapons one more time, ignoring his shoulder's protests. Beside him, Olivia pulled up the schematics again, memorizing every detail that might save lives. Behind them, the sun rose, fully bathing the desert in golden light. Ahead, destiny waited in the shadows of abandoned mines, where Emma Richardson's vision would either die or consume the world. The mine shaft was darker than Daniel had anticipated, their tactical lights creating dancing shadows on walls that hadn't seen human presence in decades. Behind him, Olivia moved with surprising grace, the weeks of training he'd given her showing in every careful step. Their security element, 4 of Sterling's best operators, maintained a protective diamond formation around them. Above ground, the main assault had begun. Through his earpiece, Daniel could hear Sterling coordinating the attack, drawing the fanatics' attention to the primary entrance. Gunfire echoed down through the mountain, muffled but unmistakable. "The amplification device should be in the main processing chamber," Olivia whispered, consulting the mining facility's original blueprints on her tablet. Another 300 meters, then down 2 levels. Daniel's shoulder throbbed with each movement, the morning's fresh bandages already seeping red. He'd refused pain medication, needing his mind clear. The shaft narrowed ahead, forcing them into single file. "Movement," one of the operators warned. "Thermal signatures 20 meters ahead." They pressed against the walls, weapons raised. 2 figures appeared around a bend, sentries, but their attention was focused upward toward the sounds of battle. Daniel's team took them down silently, zip-tying their unconscious forms. "They're kids," Olivia breathed, looking at the sentries' young faces. "Maybe 20 years old." "Old enough to choose their side," Daniel replied, but he understood her horror. Emma's movement was recruiting the idealistic young, convincing them that destruction was salvation. They continued deeper, the air growing thick with dust and the smell of old explosives. Mining equipment lay abandoned along the passages, creating an obstacle course of rusted metal and broken dreams. "Daniel, Chen's voice crackled through his earpiece. Satellites showing massive power buildup in the lower levels. Whatever they're doing it now. How long? Based on energy readings, maybe 30 minutes before they can initiate the amplification sequence. 30 minutes to prevent global catastrophe. Daniel increased their pace, ignoring his body's protests. The main processing chamber announced itself with vibration before they saw it, a deep humming that seemed to come from the mountain itself. They approached the final corner carefully, Daniel using a fiber optic camera to scout ahead. The chamber was massive, carved from living rock decades ago to house industrial mining equipment. Now it held something far more dangerous. In the center sat a device that looked like modern art gone wrong, crystalline structures surrounding a core that pulsed with unstable light. Thick cables ran from it to jury-rigged generators, while dozens of technicians monitored readings on hastily assembled workstations. And standing before it all like a high priest at an altar was someone Daniel recognized with a jolt. Dr. Marcus Webb, Olivia's supposedly murdered colleague. "That's impossible," Olivia gasped. "I saw his body." "You saw a body," Daniel corrected, understanding flooding through him. "Webb faked his death. He's been running this from the inside all along." Webb was addressing the assembled fanatics, his voice carrying across the chamber. "In 20 minutes, we initiate the reset. 50 cities will lose all electronic infrastructure simultaneously. No power grids, no communications, no digital financial systems. Humanity will be forced to rebuild from scratch, to reconsider our relationship with technology. The death toll will be millions," someone in the crowd called out, doubt in their voice. "The death toll from climate change and resource wars will be billions if we continue on this path," Webb countered. "We are surgeons cutting out cancer. Yes, the patient bleeds, but they survive." "Fanatic logic," Daniel muttered. "Save the village by burning it down." "I can disrupt the amplification matrix," Olivia whispered, studying her tablet. "But I need to physically access the core, and once I start, they'll know immediately." Daniel assessed their tactical situation. 6 of them against at least 40 in the chamber, with more certainly responding once the shooting started. The math was impossible. "Sterling," he radioed, "we need you to push harder topside. Draw more of them up." "We're taking heavy casualties as is, Guy. Do it, or in 20 minutes casualties won't matter anymore." A pause, then Sterling's voice grim but determined. "Understood. Give us 3 minutes." 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. Then the mountain shook with explosions. Sterling's team had brought out the heavy ordnance. Half the technicians in the chamber ran for the exits, heading toward the surface battle. "Now," Daniel ordered. They entered the chamber in violence and precision, taking down the nearest guards before anyone fully registered the threat. Daniel moved toward Webb, while Olivia, protected by 2 operators, sprinted for the amplification device. Webb saw them coming, his face cycling through surprise rage, and finally a terrible calm. He pulled out a dead man's switch. If he released it, the device would detonate rather than amplify, killing everyone in the mountain but preventing anyone from stopping the preset sequence at other locations. "Sergeant Cross," Webb said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "The ghost soldier's still trying to save a world that doesn't deserve it." "Dr. Webb, the dead man who couldn't stay buried." "I had to die for the truth to live. Nathaniel Hartman saw it: technology without wisdom equals extinction. His daughter perverted his vision, turned it into corporate profit. She turned it into hope," Daniel countered, slowly approaching. Around them, the firefight intensified, but both men remained focused on each other. "Hope?" Webb laughed bitterly. "Look around you. Climate collapse, endless wars, surveillance states, digital addiction. This is your hope. This is humanity, messy, imperfect, but trying. Trying isn't enough anymore. We need radical change." "Agreed, but not your kind." Behind Webb, Daniel could see Olivia working frantically at the device's core, her fingers flying across interfaces only she understood. Sparks flew as she rerouted power, the amplification matrix beginning to destabilize. "She's destroying it," Webb said, not looking back. "My life's work. Our chance to save the world. Your chance to play God. Someone has to. Humanity won't save itself." "My wife believed it would," Daniel said, still approaching. "She saw the worst of what people could do: dying children, war victims, pointless suffering. But she still believed in tomorrow." "Your wife is dead." Her faith isn't. Webb's hand tightened on the dead man's switch. I won't let you stop this. The other sites will activate regardless. The reset will happen. No, Olivia called out, pulling herself from the device's guts. They won't. I've sent shutdown codes to all of them. Your disciples might be committed, but they're not suicidal. Given the choice between capture and death, most are choosing capture. Webb's face crumbled. You don't understand what you've done. Without radical change, humanity is doomed. Humanity's always been doomed, Daniel said. The question is what we do with the time we have. Webb looked at the dead man's switch in his hand, then at the failing amplification device. His great reset was collapsing, his vision dying. Daniel saw the moment of decision in his eyes. Gun, someone shouted. Webb had pulled a pistol with his free hand aiming at Olivia. Daniel moved without thinking, crossing the remaining distance in a heartbeat. The gun fired, but Daniel was already there, taking the bullet meant for Olivia. It caught him in the chest, spinning him down. But his momentum carried him into Webb, both men falling. The dead man's switch flew from Webb's grip, clattering across the stone floor. Everyone froze, waiting for the explosion. Nothing happened. It was never armed, Webb gasped from beneath Daniel. I'm not a monster. I wouldn't kill everyone here. Just millions in 50 cities, Daniel managed, blood filling his lungs. Olivia was there, suddenly pressing desperately against Daniel's wounds. Stay with me. Medical's coming. Stay with me. Daniel tried to focus on her face, but darkness was creeping in from the edges. He thought of Lila waiting at home, of Sarah waiting somewhere else, of all the people he'd saved and failed to save. Tell Lila, he started. Tell her yourself, Olivia said fiercely. You promised her. You promised. The world faded to black. Daniel woke to the steady beep of medical monitors and the antiseptic smell of a hospital. His chest felt like someone had parked a truck on it, but he was breathing, which seemed like a good sign. About time. Sterling's voice came from his left. You've been out for 3 days. Daniel turned his head carefully. Sterling sat in a visitor's chair, looking older than Daniel had ever seen him. The device destroyed. All the secondary sites secured. Webb's in custody along with 63 other conspirators. Sterling paused. You saved approximately 12 million lives according to our analysts. Olivia, with your daughter, they've barely left your side. Sterling stood. I'll get them. But the door was already opening. Lila rushed in, followed by Olivia, both looking exhausted but relieved. Daddy, Lila climbed carefully onto the bed, mindful of his injuries. Olivia said you were too stubborn to die. She's right. Daniel managed his voice rough. I usually am, Olivia said, taking his hand. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was smiling. You scared us. Sorry. Don't apologize. Just don't do it again. Can't promise that. I know. She squeezed his hand. Sterling has an offer for you. For us. Sterling cleared his throat. The consortium needs leadership. Real leadership, not shadowy manipulation. I'm proposing a new organization, transparent, accountable, dedicated to managing dangerous technologies. Not suppressing them, but ensuring they're developed responsibly. Prometheus Reborn. Prometheus Reformed, with you as military advisor, Ms. Hartman as technical director. Official backing from multiple governments, proper oversight, actual resources. Daniel looked at Olivia, who nodded slightly. They'd discussed this while he was unconscious, apparently. What about Webb's followers? Some are in custody, others vanished. The movement's broken but not dead. Sterling's expression darkened. There will always be those who think destruction is cleaner than evolution. That's why we need people like you warriors who remember what they're fighting for. I'm tired of fighting. No, Lila said quietly. You're tired of fighting alone. 8-year-old wisdom profound in its simplicity. She's right, Olivia added. We're a team now. All of us. Daniel thought about it. The offer meant continued danger, constant vigilance, a life spent guarding against humanity's worst impulses. But it also meant purpose, partnership, and perhaps a chance to build the better world Sarah had believed in. Medical leave first, he said. Real recovery, not just patching and pushing through. Of course. And Lila's safety is non-negotiable. Any threat to her and we disappear. Agreed. And Olivia and I are equal partners in this. Her vision, my tactics. Sterling almost smiled. I wouldn't have it any other way. Olivia leaned down and kissed him gently. So we're doing this, building a better tomorrow. Trying to. Sarah always said that was all anyone could do. Over the next weeks, Daniel recovered slowly. The chest wound had been severe. The bullet had barely missed his heart, requiring multiple surgeries. But he was motivated by Lila's daily visits, Olivia's constant presence, and the stream of intelligence Sterling provided about remaining threats. Webb in custody had become almost philosophical about his failure. During one interrogation, Daniel observed he seemed more professor than terrorist. I wasn't wrong about the danger, Webb insisted, just about the solution. Humanity is racing toward a cliff. I thought forcing a stop was the answer. Maybe Ms. Hartman is right. Maybe we need to learn to fly instead. Pretty words, Daniel said from behind the one-way glass. Doesn't change the fact that you would have killed millions. To save billions, the calculus of necessity. The excuse of every monster in history. But Webb had provided valuable intelligence about other radical cells groups that made his reset plan look modest. The technology genie was out of the bottle, and everyone wanted to be the one to decide how it was used. 1 month after the mountain battle, Daniel stood in a new facility, the Global Technology Oversight Initiative, built with funding from 12 nations and private donors who understood that prevention was cheaper than catastrophe. Olivia ran the technical division, developing safeguards and detection systems. Daniel commanded security, building a force of operators who understood both tactics and ethics. It's not perfect, Olivia said, standing beside him as they watched their people work. We're basically building a private military to police technology. Better than letting technology police itself, or letting fanatics decide humanity's future. Are we any different? Deciding what's too dangerous, what needs controlling. We're transparent, accountable, and we don't think murder is medicine. She leaned into him. Sarah would be proud. Maybe. She'd probably also point out the irony, a soldier who wanted to disappear, now standing guard for the whole world. You were never meant to disappear, Daniel. You were meant to evolve. That evening, they had dinner at their new home, a modest place near the facility chosen for security but decorated by Lila to actually feel alive. Daniel helped with homework while Olivia cooked a domestic scene that would have seemed impossible months ago. Emma's niece reached out, Olivia mentioned over dinner. The one who survived. She wants to understand how her aunt went from protector to destroyer. What did you tell her? That fear makes people do terrible things. That believing you're saving the world can justify any atrocity. That the only real guard against extremism is remembering that we're all human, all flawed, all trying. Very philosophical. I had a good teacher. Hoti, she smiled at him. Someone who chose to save his enemy rather than let her die. That was Lila's doing. She reminded me that even broken people deserve compassion. I wasn't broken, Lila protested through a mouthful of pasta. Just sad. We were all broken, Daniel corrected. But broken things can be rebuilt, sometimes stronger than before. His phone buzzed Sterling with intelligence about suspicious activity in South America. Someone was trying to weaponize the battery technology for drug cartels. Tomorrow's crisis requiring tomorrow's response. But tonight, Daniel silenced the phone. Tonight was for family, for healing, for remembering what they were protecting. Tell us about Mom, Lila asked suddenly. About how she helped people. Daniel smiled, the memory no longer just painful, but also warming. She used to say that healing wasn't just about fixing bodies, but about restoring hope. There was this kid in the cancer ward. He told the story, Olivia and Lila listening intently. Outside, the world continued its complex dance of progress and peril. Technology advanced, threats evolved, and somewhere someone was probably planning the next attempt to save or destroy humanity. But inside this small home, a former ghost soldier, a brilliant CEO, and a wise child formed their own response to chaos, not through violence or control, but through connection, through the simple act of choosing to face tomorrow together. The war for Lightning Rod was over, but the fight for humanity's future had just begun. Daniel had learned, though, that the real battle wasn't against external enemies, but against the despair that made people like Webb and Emma believe destruction was the only answer. His shoulder ached as he reached for another piece of garlic bread. It would probably always ache, a reminder of choices made and prices paid. But Lila laughed at something Olivia said, and the sound was worth every scar. "I've been thinking," Olivia said as they cleared the dishes. "The consortium needs a motto, something that captures what we're really about. Not controlling technology. No, something more hopeful." Lila, wise beyond her years, offered, "How about what Mom used to say, tomorrow is worth the fight?" Daniel and Olivia exchanged glances. It was perfect, acknowledging the struggle while affirming the reason for it. "Tomorrow is worth the fight," Daniel repeated. "Sarah would have liked that." "She would have liked all of this," Olivia said, gesturing to encompass their small but real family. That night, after Lila was asleep, Daniel and Olivia stood on their small porch, looking at the stars barely visible through the light pollution. "Do you think we can really make a difference?" Olivia asked. "With all the threats, all the people who want to use technology for destruction, I think we already have. Webb's in custody, his network dismantled. The consortium is operational. 12 million people are alive who wouldn't be without us." "But there'll be others. There always are." "Yes, but there'll also be us, and people like us. That has to be enough." She was quiet for a moment. "I love you. You know, I should have said it sooner, but with everything, I know I love you too. Sarah would want me to be happy, to give Lila a complete family, to stop just surviving and start living." They kissed under the stars, two damaged people who'd found wholeness in each other and purpose in protecting a world that didn't always deserve it. Inside, Lila smiled in her sleep, dreaming of a mother who'd taught her to hope and a father who'd learned to fight for more than ghosts. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats, new reasons to fear. But tonight, in this small corner of a complex world, a family forged from loss and found through courage stood ready to face whatever came. Not because they were heroes, but because they understood a simple truth. Sarah Cross had lived and died, believing tomorrow was worth the fight, but only if you remembered what you were fighting for. The ghost soldier had found his war's end not in victory or defeat, but in the decision to keep standing watch, no longer alone, but surrounded by those who made the watching worthwhile. And somewhere in whatever came after, Sarah smiled, knowing her faith had been justified not in humanity's perfection, but in its stubborn refusal to stop trying. The technology that could have ended civilization had instead revealed civilization's defenders ordinary people, choosing extraordinary courage, broken souls choosing to heal, and a little girl whose wisdom reminded them all that love was the only force powerful enough to save a world so determined to destroy itself. Lightning Rod had been meant as a weapon. It had become a test, and humanity, imperfect and struggling, had passed not by preventing the crisis, but by facing it together, by choosing hope over fear, connection over isolation, tomorrow over today. The war was over. The watch had begun. And Daniel Cross, no longer hiding, no longer running, stood ready for whatever came next, knowing that he'd finally found something worth the price of endless vigilance, a future where his daughter could grow up believing, as her mother had, that broken things could be rebuilt, and that tomorrow, despite everything, was worth the fight.